Chapter 956. What was above a powerful, sovereign, martial emperor? Naturally, it was the legendary martial god. However, everyone knew that there were no martial gods in the world. Even someone as strong as the Qing emperor, unrivaled in his era, was not a martial god. Even someone like the Thunder King, who had lived for more than 10,000 years and was publicly recognized as the strongest expert in the world, was not a martial god. Sita Leihong could tell from Ing Zongtian's words that he was very ambitious. Even powerful experts like the Thunder King and Emperor Forsaken had not become his goal. Could it be that you want to become a martial god? Your goal is too unrealistic. Ing Zongtian withdrew the smile on his face. His tone turned somewhat grave as he said, "Martial god? I have never thought of it before. After accumulating for 1,000 years, I have already reached my limits. Even after exhausting all my potential, I will only reach the level of Emperor Forsaken. I only want to know what kind of cultivation realm martial god is." The ancient sages were too ruthless. If they left, then so be it. In the end, they did not even leave behind a word. They even erased all traces of themselves in the Kunlun realm, not leaving any information behind, abandoning the entire Kunlun realm. I have nothing else to ask for in this life. I just want to know what kind of existence that cultivation realm is. I only want one person to reach that realm. Don't be too ruthless. Just tell me what kind of cultivation realm it is. Situ Leihong could hear the sorrow in Ing Zongtian's words. After accumulating for 1,000 years, if he became a sovereign personage, he would immediately become an expert on the level of the Sword Sovereign or the Saber Sovereign, even stronger than the 3 Holy Masters. However, even such a talented person still filled his heart with doubts. Even Situ Leihong himself could not be sure if there were martial gods in this world. He could not be sure if there was a peak above the peak. Was the end of the martial epic a dead end? This was the sorrow in Ing Zongtian's heart. However, it was also the sorrow of all the cultivators in the Kunlun realm. What is a dead end? You had to put in a lot of effort, cutting your way through brambles and thorns, climbing your way up, experiencing hundreds of battles, undergoing 9 tribulations. However, even standing at the peak, you still could not escape death. So what if someone as strong as the Thunder King did not die for 10,000 years? In the end, he still remained in seclusion, staring at the sky and waiting for death. Why was it that the path ahead was already at an end, no path left to walk? Above the peak, there was no undying existence. Sita Leihong waved his hand and said, "Let's change the topic. This topic is too depressing." Ing Tianzong smiled and said, "You want the 10,000-year-old flame crystal and the 10,000-year-old essence iron to forge the flawless sword, right? How's it going? Let me see." An object that looked like a fire stick appeared in Situ Leihong's mind. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Let's not talk about this. Let's continue. This topic is rather heavy. In that case, I will get down to business. You helped Lu Xiaoyan forge his divine weapon. He still owes you a favor, right? Give him to me. Get him to protect me and successfully advance to Sovereign Martial Emperor." Situ Leihong cursed. "Damn, you are really ruthless. This is what I used to save my life. Rather than talking about this, you might as well talk about the flawless sword." Situ Leihong's swordsmithing skills were unparalleled in the world. Any faction that obtained his swordsmithing skills would benefit them greatly. Who knew how many experts had designs on him? Naturally, Sita Leihong was able to survive until now because he helped others forge swords and received many favors. Of all these, his greatest reliance was the Sword Sovereign, Lu Xiaoyan. Everyone knew that the divine weapon in the Sword Sovereign's hand was forged by Sita Leihong. If anyone dared to touch him, they would definitely suffer the revenge of the Sword Sovereign, Lu Xiaoyan. Ing Zongtian smiled and said, "Little Lei, are you being silly again? After I become a sovereign martial emperor, do I still need Lu Xiaoyan to protect you?" That's right. After 1,000 years of accumulations, once you advance to sovereign martial emperor, you will not be inferior to Lu Xiaoyan, Situ Leihong said in understanding. "Let's go." It's settled then. Space fluctuated, and Ing Zongtian vanished from the hall. Everything returned to normal, as if he had never been there. Sita Leihong felt somewhat confused as he said, "Why do I feel like I got cheated?" "He's coming out. Xiao Chun is coming out." The gates of the manor opened. Before the doorman's respectful gaze, a white figure appeared before everyone. A bladesman actually managed to enter the sword-forging manor. Furthermore, Master Situ invited him in from the main gates. Everyone's gazes were filled with one word: jealousy. Diao Jintao stepped forward and blocked Xiao Chun, who had just stepped out of the steps. He glared at Xiao Chun angrily. "Brat, it is time to settle the debt between us." After obtaining the method to save Ao Jiao, Xiao Chun was in a good mood. When facing this unreasonable Diao Jintao, he started to think of other ways to deal with this. Xiao Chun needed to search for the soul-returning grass, the Permitha flower, and the 3 life stone. In the profound domain, he had already offended the Medicine God Valley's people. If he offended another great Grandmaster-level martial sage, it would be somewhat problematic. Even if Xiao Chun could leave now, it would not be a solution if Xiao Chun found news of him in the future and chased after him. Suddenly, Xiao Chun raised his eyebrows and thought of a countermeasure. He said, "Old sir, there is no need to make things difficult for this little friend. As the saying goes, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. There is no deep hatred between us. I merely touched your nephew lightly." Ouyang Feng wanted to vomit blood in his heart. "What do you mean by touched lightly? You beat me until I cannot get out of bed for half a year." Diao Jintao said coldly, "Are you joking? Do you think that you can settle this matter with just a few words?" Xiao Chun hugged the lunar shadow saber and smiled calmly. "Not at all. Old Sir's cultivation is deep and surging. Your sword chi is like a great river, and your peak sword intent is boundlessly sharp. I wonder how old you are." Diao Jintao felt slightly pleased. "This old man has cultivated for 400 years. How can you compare to me? It will be easy for me to keep you here." Xiao Chun said regretfully, "In that case, you only have 100 years left to live. Martial sages could live for up to 500 years. As long as there were no accidents, like a problem with their cultivation, getting severely injured by their enemies, or using a forbidden martial technique, they could live to 500 years old. 500 years was a long time for the people of the mundane world. However, to cultivators, especially strong cultivators, it could only be said in one sentence: there would always be an end. If one could not break through to the blue-robed Emperor realm and extend one's lifespan to 1,000 years, no matter how unfathomable one's strength was, one would eventually turn to dust. This was especially so for people like Diao Jintao, who had reached great Grandmaster-level martial sage, but was still a distance away from the blue-robed Emperor realm. Their yearning for the mundane world far surpassed that of cultivators of other cultivation realms. Xiao Chen's words immediately exposed Diao Jintao's weakness. His rage flared up in an instant. "Old sir, there is no need to get angry. This Xiao is willing to use a longevity fruit to resolve this grudge." Xiao Chun tossed out a piece of shocking news. The words longevity fruit immediately excited Diao Jintao. "You are saying that you have a longevity fruit?" Among the long line of swordsmen, several Grandmaster-level martial swordsmen felt restless. Now, when they looked at Xiao Chun, they no longer had the same envious expression as before. Instead, they now had an undisguised, murderous intent. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and tossed a longevity fruit from his universe ring to Diao Jintao. Diao Jintao caught it, his eyes filled with excitement. Ouyang Feng dragged his heavily injured body to the side. He called out a few times, but Xiao Chun did not reply. "It really is a longevity fruit. A longevity fruit that can extend one's lifespan by 100 years. Ha ha ha. Now, I might have hope of breaking through to the blue-robed Emperor realm." Diao Jintao could not help laughing out loud as his emotions surged. Then, he quickly put away the longevity fruit. "Uncle, you won't abandon this nephew's grudge just because of a longevity fruit, right?" Ouyang Feng could not help feeling anxious when he saw Diao Jintao's overjoyed expression. Diao Jintao put away the longevity fruit and reprimanded with a stern expression. "How can you say that? You repeatedly made things difficult for young Master Xiao, insulting him and attacking him. Xiaochen only gently touched you. He is so magnanimous, yet you are not grateful. Instead, you talk about a grudge. I feel ashamed for your father. After that, Diao Jintao turned around and performed a cupped fist salute. Young Master Xiao, my nephew was wrong in today's matter. As his senior, I apologize to you. This time, Ouyang Feng was truly angered to the point of vomiting blood. Without miraculous medicine, I will not be able to recover in half a year. What do you mean by gently touching me? Ouyang Feng raged in his heart. He said angrily, Uncle, can you be more shameless? He just called you an old fogey and called you blind. Pa! Right after Ouyang Feng spoke, Diao Jintao slapped him across the face. Pa! Ouyang Feng flew back and rolled down a mountain like a rock. Ouyang Feng had just suppressed his internal injuries. Now he was in so much pain that he hovered between life and death. His miserable cries filled the entire mountain, a tragic sight to behold. An outstanding youth filled with confidence came here to seek a fate with swords. In the end, he ended up in such a state, getting slapped away by his own uncle. This made one sigh. Diao Jintao felt depressed. This Ouyang Feng was really not on the right path. Even now, he still could not see the situation clearly. I gave Ouyang Feng a way out of this embarrassing situation, yet he ended up blaming me. One longevity fruit was 100 years of lifespan, 200 years of lifespan. So what if he was called an old blind man? No matter how harsh the insult was, he would still accept it. Furthermore, what Xiao Chun said was right. There was no deep hatred. It was better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Diao Jintao turned around and revealed a smile like the spring breeze to Xiao Chun. Young Master Xiao, it's time to go. This old man will prepare a generous gift for your king conferral ceremony half a year from now. If you're fortunate enough to break through to the blue-robed emperor realm, I will definitely thank you again. Damn, how shameless. Shameless. Truly shameless. He is a great grandmaster level swordsman. How can he change his mind at a whim, falling out with him at a whim? The group of young swordsmen immediately started cursing, feeling that Ouyang Feng was not worthy of this. However, the group of old grandmaster-level martial sages had already surrounded Xiao Chun. All of them had smiles on their faces as they continuously praised Xiao Chun. Young Master Xiao is truly a talented person with an extraordinary air. I have been unhappy with that Ouyang Feng for a long time now. He attacked young Master Xiao without distinguishing right from wrong. He is a scum and should be taught a ruthless lesson. Do you still have any longevity fruits? Can you give us old man one? The white-robed king's magnanimity is indeed worth learning by the younger generation. It would be great if the younger generation could all be like the white-robed king. The Blue Dragon King truly lives up to his reputation as the Blue Dragon King. He truly lives up to being someone that Master Sidhu personally summoned. All sorts of praises rained down on Xiao Chun like cannon fire, toppling mountains and overturning seas. When these old men saw Xiao Chun casually give a longevity fruit to Diao Jintao, their eyes turned bloodshot with anxiety. They all spoke up, begging Xiao Chun to give him another longevity fruit. Xiao Chun found it funny. These people's earlier words were still ringing in his ears. Now that he saw their performance, it was a great mockery. Chapter 9:57. However, everything was within expectations. This was the effect that Xiao Chun wanted. He smiled faintly and suppressed the voices of the crowd. Old sirs, please don't get agitated. This Xiao no longer has any longevity fruits on me. Even if you kill me, you will not be able to get one. Once those words were spoken, one could clearly see the disappointment on the faces of the many old men. Xiao Chun paused for a while before continuing. Just because I do not have any longevity fruits on me does not mean that I do not have any more. Truth be told, I obtained 10 longevity fruits by chance in an immortal sect remnant in the primal chaos domain's heavenly ruin wasteland. Aside from the one that I gave to old Mr. Diao, I handed the remaining 9 to the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion. Half a month from now, the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion will hold a small Grandmaster level auction to auction off these longevity fruits. There are still 9 left. The old men surrounding Xiao Chun immediately rekindled their hope. Several of the old men looked at Xiao Chun with malicious intent. They did not believe him and wanted to kill him to snatch his treasures. Xiao Chun saw all this. His heart was as clear as a mirror. He smiled faintly and said, "I hope that everyone will attend the flourishing Heaven Pavilion's auction half a month from now. I once said that great Grandmaster level experts cannot stop me. I was not speaking carelessly. If you want to keep this Xiao Chun here, don't overthink it." The freedom wings on Xiao Chin's back unfurled. He had already prepared the magic skill, so close yet world apart. Instantly excited, he took a step forward and crossed hundreds of kilometers. He really disappeared. I can't sense his aura anymore. Xiao Chun was indeed not bragging. Great Grandmaster level martial sages cannot stop him. Longevity fruits. Unexpectedly, this old man managed to run into such a natural treasure in his lifetime. I have to obtain it at all costs. It looks like I can only sell the divine materials for forging weapons. Otherwise, I will not be able to buy longevity fruits. Several old men left Sword Forging Peak, preparing for the longevity fruit auction that would take place half a month later. Hundreds of kilometers away, Xiao Chun landed on a small mountain peak. He revealed a satisfied smile on his face. He had 20 longevity fruits in his hands. He took out one longevity fruit to resolve his grudge and advertise it at the same time. He could definitely afford it. After all, it was a trade without any cost. Given Sword Forging Peak's position in the profound domain, the news of the longevity fruit appearing would spread throughout the entire profound domain in less than 3 days. At that time, the many older generation Grandmaster level martial sages would all take action. None of the older generation great Grandmaster level martial sages would care about their lifespans. 9 longevity fruits would definitely fetch a good price. He might not even have to search for the 3 life stone, soul returning grass, and Permi-Thaw flower. He could use the black astral coins to purchase them. It was a small move, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Resurrection flower, equinox grass, 3 live stone. Xiao Chun had never heard of any of the 3 items. However, based on their names, he vaguely felt that they might be in the ghost domain or that he might have to make a trip to the 9 Hells Purgatory. As for the specifics, Xiao Chun would have to ask Ying Qiong. He could also ask about the matter of the Saber School ranking. Calculating the time, Kim Tae-ho and Lord Jiu should have already arrived at the Ying clan's headquarters in the profound domain, Qin City. Xiao Chun thought for a while and gave up on going to Qin City. Right now, his identity was somewhat sensitive. It would be better to send someone to inform Ying Qiong. The profound domain was much larger than the primal chaos domain. On the surface, it looked much calmer. At the very least, there would not be any loose cultivators brazenly walking the streets. However, the factions here were much more complicated and vast than in the primal chaos domain. The profound domain was independent of the 5 domains. There were many noble clans of the ghost race, corpse race, human race, and fiend race. They were all like the sovereign noble clans of the human race. They did not submit to the jurisdiction of the major factions of their own domain. So they left and came to this profound domain to establish themselves. After tens of thousands of years of development, this place already had its own unique background, becoming the center of the entire Kunlun realm. Not only were there many local factions, but the Bushin Palace, the Corpse God Palace, the Deity Domain, and the Fiend Race had also extended their influence into this place, making it even more complicated. There were countless experts, including several sovereign martial emperors. However, there were only 2 publicly recognized as the strongest, the Saber Sovereign, Wu Xiaotian, and the Sword Sovereign, Lu Xiaoyan. There were many Saber Sovereigns in this world, such as the Northern Sea Saber Sovereign, the Ice Saber Sovereign, and the Primal Chaos Saber Sovereign. However, only Wu Xiaotian dared to call himself the Saber Sovereign without any prefixes. The Sword Sovereign, Lu Xiaoyan, was the same. The 2 of them were publicly recognized as the strongest in the Kunlun realm when it came to using the saber and the sword. This Lu Xiaoyan was not the Lu Xiaoyan that Xiao Chun met in the Sky Dome realm. They had different names, and the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Xiao Chen had been to the profound domain a few times. His understanding of the profound domain was limited to the bits of information he had obtained. Now that he was on a tall mountain, he looked around. He did not know where he was or which faction governed this place. Xiao Chun chose the nearest city and put away the freedom wings. Then, he started to make his way. After 4 hours, he arrived at a towering city gate. Heavenly Cauldron City. There were 3 ancient and vast words written on the city gates. The strokes were like dragons and snakes, looking very imposing. Xiao Chen muttered them aloud. Heavenly Cauldron City was about the same size as Qin City, which Xiao Chun had been to before. It was second only to the Sky City in the center of the profound domain, Leisure Feather City. After entering the city gate, Xiao Chun discovered that there were an absurd number of bladesmen in the city. He even vaguely felt like he was in Saber City at the foot of the Sky Dome Realm's Heavenly Saber Pavilion. As a bladesman, Xiao Chun did not find this unsuitable. On the contrary, he was already used to this feeling. When Xiao Chun entered the largest inn in the city, he was told that all the private rooms and VIP rooms were taken. All the independent courtyards were sold out long ago, leaving only a few of the lowest quality guest rooms. Excuse me, but the city lord's young master recently organized a tea party, meeting friends over tea and discussing the Tao with the saber. He invited all the famous bladesmen in the world, resulting in overcrowding. Only the lower rooms are left. At the table, Xiao Chun casually drank wine. Then, he took a sip and put down his wine cup. That's fine. Lower rooms it is. What's wrong? Does the city lord have a great background? He is just a young master, and he dares to invite all the bladesmen in the world? The waiter smiled and said, Of course. This city lord is a famous bladesman in the Tianwu domain. He is already a blue-robed emperor. Furthermore, Heavenly Cauldron City is one of the holy lands for bladesmen in the profound domain. Do you think he has a great background? However, this is nothing. At the very least, in the profound domain, even Emperor Wu would not dare to say that he can do as he pleases. The truly incredible one is the young city lord Bai Lang. His talent is outstanding. The Saber Sovereign took a liking to him and accepted him as his final disciple. Do you think he is qualified to invite all the bladesmen in the world? This tea party has been passed down for a long time. It is as famous as the Sword Dao tea party held by the Sword Sovereign's inheritors and is widely sought after. The waiter sounded very pleased with himself. Clearly, as a local, he felt somewhat dissatisfied with Xiao Chen's question. Xiao Chen smiled and did not refute the waiter. However, he felt somewhat depressed in his heart. He invited all the famous bladesmen in the world, but why did he not receive an invitation? However, this resentment passed in a flash. After Xiao Chan drank the wine, he tossed it to the back of his mind. Go and help me prepare a lower room. After that, I still have something to do and need you to run errands for me. You should know about the faction that circulates letters in the city, right? The waiter chuckled and said, Preparing a room is part of my job. This little one definitely knows where to circulate letters. However, this is not part of my job. That, Xiao Chen tossed out a black astral coin and asked, Is that enough? In the primal chaos domain, Xiao Chun had killed many martial sages. Although Xiao Chun had left the spatial rings with Lord Jiao, he had taken the astral coins and divine materials in them for himself. The items that Lord Jiao had gone to the Ying clan to deal with were the black goods in the spatial rings. In terms of total value, they were much higher than the astral coins that Xiao Chun had taken. Xiao Chen now had more than 2 million black astral coins, a huge sum. Tossing out one black astral coin was more than enough. The waiter happily received the black astral coin and repeatedly said good. Then, he quickly went to prepare a room for Xiao Chun. In merely 3 days after receiving the letter, Ying Qiong arrived at the appointed time. Xiao Chun casually looked around and discovered 2 Grandmaster-level martial sages hidden in the surroundings. Having learned his lesson, Ying Qiong was much more cautious than before. Even Grandmaster-level martial sages appeared. This showed that the power struggle among the Ying clan's younger generation had reached a peak. Young Master Xiao, You really do not ask for this little girl's help. You can't even bear to meet me. Ing Xiong sat down and looked at Xiao Chun with a resentful look. Xiao Chun smiled and said, "Don't give me that. If you were a little girl, then there would be no women in the world." Ing Xiong's expression turned serious as she scolded. "You fellow, your mouth is still as venomous as before. That auction was something you decided to hold on your own, right? Are you not afraid that I will fall out with you and prevent you from continuing the auction?" Xiao Chun put down his wine cup and said with some pity, "In that case, never mind. I was just preparing to give you 3 longevity fruits as a thank you gift after the auction. It looks like you do not care for them." Ing Xiong's mouth gaped open slightly as she asked in a low voice, "You fellow, just how many longevity fruits do you have? Don't tell me you even snatched a longevity tree? You overestimate me. With my strength, how could I capture a longevity tree? However, I do have quite a few longevity fruits. Since you agreed to hold the auction, I will definitely give you the 3 longevity fruits as promised." Ing Xiong revealed a suspicious expression. "Are you that kind? Why do I feel that something is wrong?" Xiao Chan said softly, "Don't think too badly of me. I do not wish for the Ing clan to end up in the hands of someone I am not familiar with. In the future, you will be in charge of the Ing clan. It will be much easier for me to handle some matters. The 3 longevity fruits will allow you to recruit 3 experts. That should be of some help to you." Ing Xiong smiled craftily and said, "How come I heard that someone took away the king-grade secret treasures of the Yin clan, Jiang clan, and Lin clan science? You are afraid of offending the Ing clan, offending the 4 sovereign noble clans of the human race, right?" Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly and said, "Whatever you say. If you are willing to hold the auction, then let's settle it. I can hand the longevity fruits to you now. How can I reject benefits that are delivered to my doorstep? That's right. I already helped your 2 friends with their matters. However, I did not earn a single cent. That fatso is not doing business. What a waste of his eloquence." Xiao Chun smiled and casually handed the box containing the longevity fruits to Ing Xiong. Ing Xiong checked the box for a while. Then, her eyes turned into crescent moons, and she smiled like a flower. "What else is there? Just say it all at once. I don't believe that you will give me something for free." Chapter 958. 3 life stone, soul returning grass, and permitha flower. Help me ask around for these 3 things. If you can buy them directly, no matter the price, I will buy them. If you cannot buy them directly, then tell me where I can find them. Ing Xiong frowned slightly and asked, "What are those things? I have been in the flourishing heaven pavilion for so long, but I have never heard of them before." Xiao Chen's heart sank. To think that even Ing Xiong had not heard of them. It looked like these 3 things would not be easy to find. However, don't worry. The Heavenly Mystery Pavilion is in charge of intelligence. I should be able to find them. I will let you know after I ask around. Ing Xiong consoled. Xiao Chen relaxed slightly. He said, "One last question. How much do you know about the Saber School ranking? Tell me in detail." Ing Xiong gave Xiao Chen a strange look and asked, "Didn't you come to Heavenly Cauldron City to participate in the tea party? How come you don't even know this?" The series of questions made Xiao Chun feel somewhat embarrassed. I got lost. I just casually chose Heavenly Cauldron City. As for the tea party, I did not receive an invitation at all." Ing Xiong burst out laughing. He could not help laughing at Xiao Chen's explanation. To think that Xiao Chen chose Heavenly Cauldron City because he got lost. After the explanation, Xiao Chen understood what the Saber School ranking was about. It was about the same as what Sito Leihong had said. However, it was more detailed. The Saber School ranking and the Sword School ranking were extremely famous in the profound domain. The Saber School ranking only recorded 50 people. Those who could make it onto the Saber School ranking were all experts with Grandmaster-level combat prowess. Since the Saber School ranking did not reject older generation cultivators from participating, it was extremely valuable. Over the years, the young bladesmen who could make it onto the Saber School ranking would become famous everywhere, praised by everyone. In other words, this Saber School ranking represented the strongest bladesmen under the blue-robed emperor. This was not an exaggeration at all. The Saber School ranking and the Sword School ranking changed every 10 years. Now, it was almost 10 years. As for the tea party, both clans held it. The inheritors of the Saber Sovereign and the Sword Sovereign would host it. Firstly, it was to strengthen their reputation and discuss the Tao while drinking tea. Secondly, it was to see who among the younger generation had the potential to make it into the top 10 of the Saber School ranking. Over the years, there had been many youths who could make it onto the Saber School ranking. They had killed their way out of a group of older generation bladesmen and made a name for themselves. However, there were very few youths in the top 10. It could be said that there were none, unless the participating bladesmen could not gather 10 great Grandmaster-level martial sages. Those who occupied the top 10 were all great Grandmaster-level existences. However, the more difficult it was, the more impossible it was. If a member of the younger generation could enter the top 10, that would be a testament to their strength. Chun and Si, Sage, and a Sage Martial, and Spirit Sage would also master. Wiccan World. After Xiao Chun heard that, his expression could not help but turn grave. It turned out that the top 10 were so difficult to obtain. One had to challenge a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. No wonder when Sidhu Leihong heard Xiao Chun agree, he revealed a mocking expression. Opponents at the level of great Grandmaster-level martial sage were indeed not easy to deal with. At the very least, Xiao Chun's chances of victory were slim. What's wrong? It looks like you want to make it into the top 10? Ying Qiong smiled and said, hee, that is not easy. In the past few Saber School rankings, no one from the younger generation managed to make it into the top 10. However, it might be possible this time. The Saber Sovereign's mysterious disciple, Wen Xiren, is very promising. Wen Xiren? That's right. One of the main reasons why this tea party is so popular is that Bai Lang invited this mysterious bladesman. Of course, this is just hearsay. Whether this person will come or not is still a mystery. Xiao Chun poured himself another cup of wine and smiled. Whether he comes or not has nothing to do with me. I do not have an invitation, so I cannot go to this tea party. Actually, I can help you get an invitation. However, you have to agree to one of my requests. Xiao Chun raised his eyebrows. Then, he thought of something and was about to agree. However, when he thought about how strange this girl was, he did not know what request she would make. Xiao Chun swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. There's no need. Just help me complete the request. I'll wait for your news. Then, Xiao Chun put down the wine cup and turned to leave. Ying Qiong clenched his teeth and said, Bastard, will it kill you to ask someone seriously? While it was unfortunate that Xiao Chun could not participate in the tea party, it was not to the point where he had to participate. After returning to his room, Xiao Chun had some free time. So, he took out the last Heavenly Soul Pearl. This was the highest-ranked Heavenly Soul Pearl he had. Originally, Xiao Chun had prepared to consume it long ago. However, he had not been able to do so. Now that he was free, he forgot about it. Coincidentally, he still needed some time to wait for Ying Qiong's news. Consuming this pearl to strengthen himself was just right. Xiao Chun sat down cross-legged and overlapped his hands. The Heavenly Soul Pearl floated above his palm. Then, he silently circulated the purple thunder divine incantation, slowly consuming the energy contained in it. The light of the white jade heaven soul pearl dimmed, but the dermic powers in the sea of consciousness were boiling like a volcano. They surged and spread across the entire sea of consciousness at a visible speed. Xiao Chun's heart skipped a beat. The growth of the magic power in his sea of consciousness was beyond his expectations. If it continued to grow, his sea of consciousness would soon be filled with magic power. Due to the limitation of the realm, one's magic power would not be able to grow. He was not an orthodox immortal cultivator, but the dragon infant in his body had formed. Xiao Chun estimated that his immortal cultivator level had reached the nascent soul realm. There were still the nascent soul formation, Mahayana, void refinement, Mahayana, and tribulation crossing. In reality, there were only 4 realms: nascent soul transformation, void refinement, and great realization. The immortal epic no longer existed. This world no longer had tribulations to undergo, so it was impossible for an immortal lord to appear. Immortal monarchs were the legendary immortals. They had the same lifespan as the heavens. Any random immortal monarch would have the strength of the Thunder King. Most importantly, they would be able to achieve immortality, escape from the six paths reincarnation, and live forever. Just think about the 3,000 immortal monarchs of the Immortal epic. That was a legendary and glorious age. Above immortal monarchs were immortal ancestors and immortal kings. No one in the martial epic could match that level of strength. Perhaps only the legendary martial god could make people associate him with a martial god. Perhaps he could compare. However, it was pointless to say anything now. The heavenly Tao had changed, and it was already the martial epic. Even if one had a fortuitous encounter and great luck, walking the path of immortal cultivation in this age, one would not be able to become an immortal. If one could successfully climb to the void refinement realm, that would be the limit. There would be no exceptions. When Shao Chan finished absorbing the jade-white heavenly soul pearl, his sea of consciousness was already completely filled. His magic energy reached the limit, reaching the bottleneck of the nascent soul realm. Shao Chan opened his eyes and felt the abundant magic energy. On one hand, he felt incredibly joyful. On the other hand, he felt somewhat vexed. How to reach the nascent soul realm became a difficult problem for Shao Chan. With a thought, the chubby little blue dragon in his dantian flew out. When the blue dragon landed on Shao Chan's palm, it was like a clone. Shao Chan could control this little dragon's every move. The blue dragon Yuanying had its own senses. It could sense everything it saw and felt. This characteristic was no different from a Yuanying's. However, if one were to say that this blue dragon was Shao Chen's Yuanying, the immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea would all laugh themselves to death. Shao Chan simply did not know how to make this little fellow undergo a metamorphosis and advance to the nascent soul realm. After withdrawing the Yuanying into his body, Shao Chan stopped thinking about this problem. Right now, the magic energy in his sea of consciousness was more than enough for him to use. When necessary, he could make up for the lack of law energy. Naturally, he would have an additional trump card compared to others. If he ran into a cultivator with a higher cultivation, he would not have to fear a battle of attrition. 3 days later, the waiter brought an envelope to Shao Chan. The envelope contained information from Ing Qiang. After Shao Chan read it, his expression turned extremely grave. It was as he had guessed. The 3 life stone, the soul returning grass, and the Permitha flower were indeed in the ghost race's 9 layers of purgatory. These 3 items would not be sold on the market. The envelope did mention where these 3 items might be. However, Ing Qiang strongly advised Shao Chan not to go. Shao Chan put away the envelope and looked at the lunar shadow saber in his hand in a daze. Even though he knew that even the ghost race did not dare to go to the 9 layers of purgatory, how could he not go? There was also an invitation hidden in the envelope. When Shao Chan opened it, it was the invitation to the Saber Dao Tea Party. Shao Chan could not help laughing hoarsely. This woman still remembers how good I was to her. Getting into the top 10 of the Saber School ranking was Sido Leihong's condition for helping. Naturally, Shao Chan wanted to go to the Saber Dao Tea Party if he could. He wanted to understand the strength of his opponents in the same generation and obtain more information. This would be helpful for him to get into the top 10. The location of the tea party was the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza in Heavenly Cauldron City. It occupied a vast area and was very grand. Normally, many bladesmen gathered there, making it an extraordinarily bustling place. Only the young city lord Bai Lang would be able to reserve the entire Heavenly Cauldron Plaza for a tea party. Just as Shao Chan left the inn while holding the invitation, someone called out to him. When he turned his head to look, he saw that it was someone familiar from the Tianwu domain. This person was Feng Xingxing, the top bladesman of a younger generation in the 18 southern provinces of the Tianwu domain. Although Shao Chan had suppressed this title long ago, Feng Xingxing was now famous. However, now that Shao Chan had become famous, he was a famous bladesman of the Tianwu domain. It was not strange to meet him here. Feng Xingxing walked over quickly and laughed loudly. I just knew that Brother Shao would come. Others say that you're not a bladesman. You will definitely come to prove yourself. Feng Xingxing's words came out of nowhere. When Xiao Chun heard this, he found it strange. He asked doubtfully, "Brother Feng, what do you mean by that? Why do I have to prove myself?" This question startled Feng Xingxing. Could it be that Brother Xiao Chun did not hear what the Heavenly Cauldron City's young city lord said? What did he say? Someone once asked him if he would invite Brother Xiao to the tea party. He said that he would not. He said that you are famous, but you no longer use the saber. The white-robed bladesman is just an empty title. If you do not even have a saber, how can you be called a bladesman? Since you're not a bladesman, naturally, he would not invite you. This revelation stunned Xiao Chun. It turned out that there was such a reason why he did not receive an invitation. It looked like Ying Qiong had put in a lot of effort to help him obtain an invitation. Bai Lang, I should get to know this person. He might be interesting. When Xiao Chun heard this, he did not get angry. Instead, he felt some anticipation for this tea party. Chapter 9:59. Brother Xiao, are you all right? Bai Lang is a straightforward person. As a disciple of the Saber Sovereign, it is unavoidable for him to be somewhat arrogant. Seeing Xiao Chun remain silent, Feng Xingxing asked somewhat nervously. It looked like this was indeed his first time hearing this. He feared that Xiao Chun would get angry and cause a ruckus at the tea party. Xiao Chun took out the invitation and smiled. This is indeed my first time hearing this. However, I already have an invitation. If you do not mind, I will go with Brother Feng. When Feng Xingxing saw the situation, he heaved a sigh of relief. Naturally, I do not mind. It is a blessing to attend this tea party with Brother Xiao. Many cultivators dressed as bladesmen headed for the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza in the middle of the city. At this moment, everyone in the entire Heavenly Cauldron City was heading in the same direction. The influence of the tea party was clear with just one glance. The vast Heavenly Cauldron Plaza was decorated with flowers that competed with each other in beauty. As the crowd moved, the cultivators of the city lord's residence personally led the way and received the guests. Everything was very orderly without any chaos. There were many pavilions in the plaza, with fake mountains and fountains. Occasionally, 2 or 3 friends would gather together, either sitting on the ground or gathering in the pavilions. They would drink tea and discuss the Tao, exchanging their experiences. The treasured sabers they carried were all placed at the side. There were also merchants who set up stalls, selling items related to the saber. There were saber-type spirit weapons, secret manuals, ores, and many more. The entire place was extraordinarily bustling, filled with endless laughter. Xiao Chun could not help but feel some admiration for this Bai Lang. It was not easy to organize such a grand event and arrange everything in such an orderly manner. Brother Xiao, this is the periphery of the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza. It looks very lively, but there are no experts. The true tea party will be held in the center of the plaza. Without an invitation, you will not be able to enter. As Feng Xingxing spoke, he casually called over a maidservant and handed the invitation to her. Xiao Chun followed suit and handed his invitation to the maidservant. The pretty maidservant checked the invitation and smiled happily. Honored guests, please come with me. In the periphery, they took many turns and passed through many heavily guarded checkpoints. After carefully checking the invitations several times, the 2 of them successfully entered the center of the square. 18 stone pillars with ancient bladesmen carved on them stood on a tall platform in the spacious area. They pierced into the clouds, separated by 100 meters, forming a crescent moon. Rumor had it that these 18 stone pillars were not carved by later generations. Instead, they were a mysterious phenomenon that appeared after the 18 Saber Sovereigns advanced to Martial Emperor, similar to the Thunder King Valley in the Sky Dome realm. An elegant wooden table was placed on the high platform. The guests who had arrived earlier had already taken their seats. There were not many people who came, only about 30 or 40. However, all of them were outstanding bladesmen of the younger generation. Their saber intents had all reached an extremely high level. Their gazes clashed, and their saber intents seemed solid. It was like they could hear the crisp sound of weapons clashing in the air. Of the 18 stone pillars, a long wooden table was placed under the stone pillar in the middle. There was only one person seated there. This person wore luxurious embroidered clothes with a jade belt inlaid with pearls, jade, and gemstones. His handsome face exuded an air of nobility. This person should be the heavenly Cauldron City's young city lord, Bai Lang. However, the seat beside Bai Lang was empty. That mysterious bladesman, when Xiren, did not appear. After walking up 100 steps, Xiao Chun and Feng Xingxing ascended the high platform at the same time. Welcome, Full Moon Pavilion's Feng Xingxing and the Haoyan sect Xiao Chun to the tea party. A servant below the high platform read out the names on the invitation cards, reading out Xiao Chen's and Feng Xingxing's identities. This caused a significant commotion in the surroundings. Bai Lang raised his eyebrows and sized up Xiao Chun. However, he immediately left. A pretty and obedient maidservant stepped forward and led Xiao Chun and Feng Xingxing to a wooden table. Then, she served them some aged spirit fruits, exquisite desserts, and superior tea. Xiao Chun picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, he revealed a satisfied expression. Although Xiao Chun did not know much about tea, he could tell that the tea leaves were very valuable from the fragrance that spread in his mouth and the cooling qi that spread throughout his body after the tea entered his body. Then, he looked at the spirit fruits on the table. This Xiao Chun was an expert in this field. With a cursory glance, he could tell that the spirit fruits were at least 3,000 years old. They were truly extravagant. Strange, how strange. Young city lord, didn't you say that a certain person is a bladesman in name, but not a bladesman in reality? Why is he here today at this once-in-a-decade bladesman event? The moment Xiao Chun sat down, a bold and meddlesome person immediately started a conversation. This person's complexion was sickly pale, and his voice had a sinister tone to it. With one look, it was clear that he was a member of the ghost race. Feng Xingxing frowned and explained, "This person is called Jiang Qingzi. He is one of the few ghost race cultivators who practice the saber. He specializes in the Death Saber Dao and is extremely incredible. He has already formed a vague form of a saber soul, and his saber intent is very exquisite." Xiao Chun glanced around. The bladesmen here had at least reached great perfection in their saber intents. There were many who had comprehended 90% comprehended saber intents. However, not many had formed a vague form of a saber soul. Feng Xingxing, who was beside Xiao Chun, was one. The other was this Jiang Qingzi. Bai Lang, who was on the platform, was like Xiao Chun, hiding his saber intents very well. Others would not be able to detect their saber intents. Bai Lang said indifferently, "I gave him an invitation as a favor to a friend. My words remain the same. Without a saber in hand, no matter how famous a bladesman is, he is just an empty shell. He cannot be considered a bladesman." Xiao Chen's lips curled up, and he revealed a playful smile. These words were really direct, displaying a noble, cold, and aloof attitude. Xiao Chun held back Feng Xingxing, who was about to speak up for him. Then, he smiled and did not argue. He was only here to see who would be his opponent in the Saber School, ranking 4 months from now. If the other party did not like him, there was no need for him to waste any effort arguing. When Jiang Qingzi heard this, he did not say anything more. He only looked at Xiao Chun with a hostile expression. He did not know how Xiao Chun had offended this ghost race bladesman. Bai Lang raised his cup to Feng Xingxing and said, "Brother Feng became famous at a young age. In the early days, you were known as the top bladesman of the southern region of the Tianwu domain's younger generation. Since you are willing to do me the honor of coming here today, I will use tea in place of wine to toast you." "Brother Bai, you are too polite," Feng Xingxing said quickly. Bai Lang continued, "Earlier, Brother Jiang shared some of his experiences in cultivating the Death Saber Dao with everyone. Since Brother Feng is here, why don't you explain the Saber Dao that you practice to everyone?" The first part of the tea party was to discuss the Dao over tea, to exchange experiences and make progress together. Naturally, Feng Xingxing would not reject. He put down his teacup and started to talk about the wind saber Dao that he cultivated. There are berserk winds, gentle winds, warm winds, and bone-chilling winds. Every kind of wind has many variations. One can focus on one point, taking only one Tao. If one cultivates it to the peak, one will be able to look down on the world. If one is talented, one can incorporate all the variations into one saber Tao. When Feng Xingxing spoke about his wind saber Tao, he was not stingy. He shared some of his experiences, speaking eloquently and eloquently. At the same time, he shared his doubts and confusion, seeking answers. As Feng Xingxing spoke about the saber Tao, the atmosphere was good. Occasionally, someone would ask a question. Some even had a flash of inspiration, giving a new understanding. Bai Lang listened very seriously. He also shared some of the questions that Feng Xingxing raised. With such an atmosphere, Xiao Chun could not help but immerse himself in it, listening attentively. Good. After Feng Xingxing finished speaking, Bai Lang, who was seated in the middle, took the lead and clapped. The others followed suit. It had to be said that Feng Xingxing's wind saber, Tao, was extremely exquisite. It made everyone's eyes light up, giving them many comprehensions. Following that, a few more people discussed the saber Tao that they practiced. Although they were not as brilliant as Feng Xingxing's, they were still unique and had their own highlights. The other bladesmen did not mock them. Instead, they offered their own understanding, complementing each other's saber Tao. As they spoke, the melodious hum of sabers rang out in the surroundings, sounding like zither music, very pleasant to the ears. Saber winds blew everywhere, and a sharp saber intent spread throughout the tall platform. This group of people were all outstanding young talents. As they chatted, they could not hold back their saber intent, which resulted in such a miraculous scene. The endless clanging of sabers sounded like people fighting in the air, materializing the saber Tao that the bladesmen discussed. The ancient bladesmen carved on the 18 towering stone pillars seemed to be listening as well. Their eyes looked lively as if they came to life. After that, several more people came. Among them, there were two incredible people who also comprehended a vague form of saber soul. These two people were Lin Yin and Dugaju. They were the disciples of the Inferno Saber Sovereign and the Lightning Saber Sovereign, both famous. The Inferno Saber Sovereign and the Lightning Saber Sovereign were both sovereign martial emperors. Their titles also contained the words Saber Sovereign. However, because of Wu Xiaotian, they did not dare to address themselves as Saber Sovereign. The only person in the world who dared to call himself a Saber Sovereign was Wu Xiaotian. He was unique, the strongest peak expert of the saber Tao. Under Bai Lang's invitation, the two started to talk about the saber. They also talked about the saber techniques that they practiced. Everyone could clearly feel that the two's comprehension of the saber Tao was higher than Feng Xingxing's. When the two talked about the saber, lightning and flames even appeared. A vast saber intent spread out, suppressing the saber intents of the other outstanding youths present. This inspired admiration in everyone's hearts. After the two finished speaking, everyone clapped at the same time. The saber intents scattered in the air formed a stirring tune that reverberated endlessly, lingering for a long time. This tune spread to the periphery of the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza. Several bladesmen who heard of it could not help turning their heads to look up, yearning in their hearts. Young City Lord, most of the people here have already spoken. Why don't you speak as well? A disciple of a saber sovereign will definitely live up to his reputation. Let us broaden our horizons, someone suggested with a smile. Bai Lang smiled faintly and put down his teacup. His actions were elegant as he said softly, "It is not about broadening our horizons. Like everyone else, this Bai will only speak about some of his own comprehensions." Upon hearing that Bai Lang was about to speak, everyone immediately settled down and prepared to listen carefully. The Saber Sovereign was very famous. Since Bai Lang was a disciple of the Saber Sovereign, he would definitely be extraordinary. Chapter 960. Xiao Chun put down his teacup and listened attentively. After half a day of observation, Xiao Chun understood that this person's heart was higher than the sky. However, he was not a person who only knew how to show off. The saber technique that this Bai cultivates is called the profound river wave chop. The essence of it is the word wave. As the saying goes, a surging wave can break through the sky. This is the limit of the wave's might. It can even break through the sky. When people practice this kind of saber technique, this is the goal. I once went to the chaotic demonic sea in the north and watched the tides rise and fall. I did not move for 3 years and saw the largest wave. When it surged, it brought a sense of shock that I would never forget. It was like a world rose before me, and nothing could resist this power. Watching the tides rise and fall, not moving for 3 years. When the crowd heard this, they could not help feeling astonished. Bai Lang's patience was truly admirable. Bai Lang did not stop speaking. As he continued, the rumbling of the waves resounded behind him. He had observed all sorts of wondrous scenes of the waves for the past 3 years. As he spoke, it was as if a real scene had been developed, and it caused others to feel a surging and boundless intent. The moment he spoke, everyone's heart surged. However, after the raging waves subsided, Bai Lang said softly, "However, after sitting here for 3 years, I realized that no matter how big the waves are, they are only on the surface and not in reality. In terms of the might of the waves, one drop of profound water from the Immortal epoc's profound river weighed 5 tons. One wave could shatter a towering mountain. However, this is not the essence of the waves." The moment Bai Lang spoke, the various scenes of the profound river behind him, the surging waves, all stopped and vanished. The crowd listened, entranced. No one said anything as they waited for Bai Lang to continue. The essence of the waves lies in being unfettered, free, unfettered. The most compact thing in the world is water. As long as there are depressions, the water will merge again. Why do waves appear? It is because of freedom. This water is different from others, unwilling to be bound. You can only understand them. As Bai Lang spoke, the illusory scene that had stopped behind him reappeared in an even more intense manner. Rumbling sounds could be heard. The entire Heavenly Cauldron Plaza could hear it clearly, as if the waves were right beside one's ears. But when you carefully pursue it, it is like the wind, untraceable, unrestrained, and free like the wind. There was a great Tao within the great Tao. So that was how it was. Many people revealed looks of realization. Boom, boom, boom. As Bai Lang spoke, 3 of the 18 stone pillars carved with ancient saber sovereigns began to tremble. It lit up with a bright white brilliance. The image of the ancient saber sovereign sat cross-legged at the top of the stone pillar, as though he was listening. 3 vast saber intents soared into the sky, scattering the clouds for 50 kilometers around. Bai Lang's saber, Tao, actually startled the remnant thoughts that the ancient sages left in the world. Everyone revealed shocked expressions. When he finished his speech, the image of the ancient saber sovereign on top of the stone pillar slowly dissipated, disappearing without a trace. Pa pa pa. The sound of clapping rang out endlessly. Everyone stood up and expressed their heartfelt admiration for Bai Lang's eloquence. Bai Lang smiled faintly and picked up his teacup. "It's just one person's opinion. I made a fool of myself. Brother Bai is too humble." Even the ancient sages were moved and listened attentively. How could we dare to laugh? Indeed, I did not dare to interrupt Brother Bai's speech at all. After I heard it, I felt enlightened. The world before me suddenly became clear. This must be the so-called Great Tao within the Great Tao. This time, the Saber School ranking will be revisited. Brother Bai might be able to make it into the top 10 and leave your name in history. As they drank, everyone praised Bai Lang's speech. Bai Lang took the lead and sat down. Then, he smiled and said, "This is really praising me too much. I believe that in another 10 years, these great Grandmaster-level martial sages will not be a match for me. However, my chances of defeating them now are slim. The one with true hope is my senior brother Wenziren. Unfortunately, he has something to do and cannot come. That is indeed unfortunate. Wenziren is without a doubt the strongest bladesman in our profound domain. However, his whereabouts are unknown. It is too difficult to meet him." At this moment, Jiang Chengzi glanced at Xiao Chun, who had been silent all this while. He smiled mockingly and said, "Wenziren is not here. However, don't forget that we still have an even more famous person here. He is someone who even dares to compete with Diwuk. Only now did everyone react. It turned out that Xiao Chan was still here. If not for Jiang Chengzi's reminder, they would have forgotten about him. Brother Xiao, say a few words as well. The name of the white-robed bladesman has spread everywhere. We have long heard of it, someone encouraged. Jiang Chengzi said indifferently. He does not even have his saber anymore. What are you asking him to say? Huh? Are you going to talk about fist and leg techniques? Xiao Chen glanced at Jiang Chengzi. He did not know what was wrong with this fellow. Why was he always targeting him? Gently putting down the teacup in his hand, Xiao Chun said calmly, I do indeed want to say something. Recently, I have run into some bottlenecks in my comprehension of the Saber Dao. Since everyone is here, perhaps you can help me resolve my doubts. If you do not mind, this Xiao Chan can speak about it. Everyone immediately looked at Bai Lang. If he did not speak, Xiao Chan could not continue either. Bai Lang picked up his teacup and looked at Xiao Chan. Since you are here, you might as well speak about it. After all, you were once a bladesman. Bai Lang's tone and attitude were as noble and elegant as before. He had a problem with Xiao Chun, a bladesman who only looked impressive. Xiao Chun smiled and did not mind. He was truly affected by the atmosphere of the tea party. A group of bladesmen discussed the Tao over tea, abandoning their sectarian differences. They shared their comprehensions without holding anything back, discussing and improving together. One would not be able to find such good conditions elsewhere. If one remained stagnant, one would never be able to improve. Xiao Chen now understood why the younger generation bladesmen would flock to this tea party. Following etiquette, Xiao Chen returned a cup of tea to Bai Lang and took a sip. Then, he started to prepare to explain his flawless saber Dao. Xiao Chen had been rather famous in the past few years. However, no one had seen him draw his saber for a long time. Rumors of him abandoning his identity as a bladesman had already spread. When the crowd saw that Xiao Chen was about to speak, they did not show too serious expressions. They did not believe that a person who abandoned his identity as a bladesman could speak about the Tao or reason. Jiang Chengzi showed disdain on his face. Young city lord, the Tao comes with your words. You speak of wondrous theories and made the three ancient saber sovereigns show themselves. You are a fellow who does not even have a saber. Don't come out and embarrass yourself and make a fool of yourself. Feng Xingxing could not stand it any longer. He said sullenly, Jiang Chengzi, don't break the rules of the tea party. This is not the time for you to interrupt. When Jiang Chengzi saw Bai Lang, who was sitting in the middle, reveal an unhappy expression, his lips curled up, and he did not say anything more. Xiao Chun sat down casually. When he saw that no one spoke, he said, I have a Dao that I would like to discuss with everyone. It is called the Flawless Saber Dao. Using the body as a saber, using my thoughts as a saber. With a thought, my hair can become a saber, my clothes can become a saber, my fist light can become a saber, and the wind from my legs can become a saber. When Jiang Chengzi heard this, he could not help mocking softly. You are bragging. However, right after Jiang Chengzi spoke, he saw that Xiao Chen's expression was solemn and respectful, his expression grave. Black wind danced without any wind, and his clothes fluttered. A boundless saber intent shot out from Xiao Chen's body. As Xiao Chen's black hair fluttered, it was like every strand of hair turned into a treasure saber, bright and dazzling, radiating an unparalleled saber intent. His clothes fluttered in the wind like an unending chain of treasured sabers dancing in the air. In an instant, everyone, including Bai Lang, stopped looking down on Xiao Chun. Now, they revealed grave expressions. When Xiao Chun spoke, heavenly flowers rained down. The moment he spoke, he shocked everyone present. When I raise my hand, it is like a treasure saber being unsheathed, giving off a bright, unparalleled light. I'm the most flawless treasure saber in the world. Kung Chong. Xiao Chun continued speaking without pause. A melodious saber hum resounded behind him, reverberating in the surroundings. A bright saber light came from Xiao Chen's body and turned into a bright moon hanging high in the sky, giving off a bright light. I use my thoughts as a saber. Everything I think, and everything I decide is a saber. Everything I see is where the saber points. What is flawless? The path that I walk is one that no one has ever walked before or since. Is flawless and perfect. No one can compare to my saber Tao. It is like the bright moon in the sky, perfectly round and flawless, cold and beautiful. With a flip of my hand, the night sky hangs upside down. The bright moon in the sky became increasingly resplendent. Everyone looked up. At some point in time, night had already fallen. This round of moonlight already covered up all the light. Balang's heart sank. No one has ever walked before or since. He really dares to say anything. Boom, boom, boom. The 18 stone pillars with the carvings of the ancient saber sovereigns flickered with resplendent lights one after another. The legendary scene of the ancient saber sovereign appearing and listening to his speech appeared once again. However, unlike Bai Lang, before Shao Chun even finished speaking, 9 ancient saber sovereign stone pillars lit up. After Bai Lang finished speaking, only 3 stone pillars lit up. However, Shao Chun immediately lit up 9, far surpassing his opponent. The ancient saber sovereign appearing and his saber intent soaring into the sky. When everyone in the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza saw this shocking scene again, they all gaped speechlessly. They did not know what kind of peerless genius had appeared at this tea party. Flawless 4 seasons, peach blossoms, summer sun, autumn wind, winter snow, spring thunder roared, and peach blossoms bloomed for 5 kilometers around. The fragrance of flowers spread everywhere, and spring was overflowing. The blazing sun hung high in the sky, and the ground cracked and turned scarlet for 50 kilometers around. This was the hottest summer. The autumn wind blew mercilessly, sweeping through the world. There was no color within 50 kilometers. What entered his eyes was another snow-white land. Shao Chun continued speaking. The flawless saber Tao, using the body as a saber, was the foundation. How to merge the flawless saber Tao with the martial techniques one learned and truly materialize this saber Tao was an even more profound technique. As Shao Chun spoke, all sorts of mysterious phenomena flashed continuously. The bright moon rose and fell, the peach blossoms of spring, the blazing sun of summer, the cold wind of autumn, and the heavy snow of winter appeared and disappeared. The 18 stone pillars with the carvings of the ancient saber sovereigns flickered one after another, and saber hums rang out. As Shao Chun spoke, the 18 saber sovereign stone pillars all appeared. It was a miraculous scene of the ancient saber sovereigns appearing and listening attentively. All the bladesmen and heroes present gaped, their faces filled with shock. They had not expected this at all. Shao Chun's comprehension of the saber Tao was so deep and unfathomable that these 18 ancient saber sovereigns all appeared. Chapter 9:61. Jiang Qingzi, who mocked Shao Chun earlier, had an extremely unsightly expression on his pale face. He had not expected such a scene to occur. Flawless, flawless. My heart is higher than the sky. I want to create this perfect and flawless saber Tao. However, I have my doubts. Is there really something flawless in the world? The moon is flawless, but the moon waxes and wanes. The 4 seasons are flawless. However, in the extreme north and south, half the year is extreme day and half the year is extreme night. There are always 2 seasons missing. I have my doubts as well. I use my body as a saber and my thoughts as a saber. However, where should the saber in my hand be? Where should the saber in my heart be? Shao Chun spoke very sincerely. The first half was about his attainments, and the second half was about his inadequacies and doubts. Shao Chun spoke continuously, not stopping at all. He spoke in one go. After he finished speaking, everyone was stunned. After he finished speaking, he felt strangely delighted. Many of his doubts seemed to be stirred up, and he vaguely saw a ray of hope. Right after Shao Chun spoke, the various mysterious phenomena that appeared as he spoke vanished one by one. Just as everyone was savoring the aftertaste and savoring it, the ancient saber sovereign image sitting on the stone pillar did not slowly disappear like before. Instead, it spoke shockingly. I have a Tao that I wish to discuss with everyone. It is called the Massacre Saber Tao. The saber is a weapon of slaughter. It is born to kill. Naturally, it should kill all life, destroy everything, exterminate everything. I have a Tao that I wish to discuss with everyone. It is called the Heaven-Mending Saber Tao. The heavenly Tao is hard to find, and the heavenly saber is hard to find. I have a Tao that I wish to discuss with everyone. It is called the Death Saber Tao. Everything is born to die. We bladesmen go against the heavens, seeking life and death. I have a Tao that I wish to discuss with everyone. It is called the Thunder Saber Tao. Thunder is the hand of the heavenly Tao, a calamity of the heavens. The vast sagely sound merged together, layering over each other and reverberating in the world. This sound that transcended time and space enveloped the entire heavenly cauldron city. When the ancient appeared and spoke, 7 colored heavenly flowers descended for 50 kilometers around. All the bladesmen in heavenly cauldron city were stunned. Under the encirclement of this holy music, spiritual sounds rang out in their minds. After they reacted, they all sat down cross-legged and started to carefully comprehend the Saber Tao in their hearts. None of the spectators had anticipated that something like this would happen. In just a short moment, the faces of the young, outstanding talents flickered, and they quickly sat down cross-legged. Without saying anything, they all began to contemplate. The reason why the ancient sage spoke was not because the ancient sage had come back to life, but because of Shao Chun. The images of the speeches of the ancient sages had transcended the distance of time and appeared in the present. This was a rare opportunity. If he lost it, it would be impossible to find it again. The experience of the ancient saber sovereigns was very precious. 18 ancient saber sovereigns all giving lectures at the same time. Such a scene was unprecedented, something that had never happened before. However, how much he could hear would depend on his own talent and comprehension. When the voices of the 18 ancient saber sovereigns overlapped, it would not be easy to distinguish them. Inside the heavenly cauldron city's city lord's residence, Bai Lang's father, the blue-robed emperor, looked at the 7 colored heavenly flowers falling from the sky. The holy music resounded endlessly in his ears. This person, who was only 1 step away from becoming Emperor Wu, could not help changing his expression. The vast voices layered over each other, spreading throughout the entire heavenly cauldron city for 4 hours. The appearance of the ancient saber sovereign and the speech of the saber sovereign slowly faded away, and the world regained its calm. However, the cultivators of heavenly cauldron city could not calm down for a long time. After this day, the status of heavenly cauldron city among the profound domains bladesmen soared. It even vaguely equaled the top holy land for bladesmen, heavenly saber city, which the saber sovereign Wu Shaotian governed. Under the 18 stone pillars in the center of the plaza, Bai Lang and the others slowly opened their eyes. As the outstanding talents of a younger generation, they had received the ancient sage's speech at close range. The comprehension they gained was much greater than that of ordinary people. Everyone gained something, and their faces filled with satisfaction. Shao Chun was the last to open his eyes. He had absorbed a vast amount of divine liquid in the heavenly dew divine spring, and his comprehension ability was startling. Shao Chun had memorized the 18 different saber sovereigns' saber Tao in his heart, not missing a single word. When he returned, he could immediately write it down. It would be a valuable asset. No one here had Shao Chun's talent. Even Bai Lang only memorized 5 different saber Tao techniques, and that was already far beyond that of ordinary people. Whoosh! This cup of tea is a toast to you, a formal apology to Brother Shao. This Bai had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai, causing the world to mock me. I hope Brother Shao will forgive me. Bai Lang opened his eyes and personally poured a cup of tea. Then, he flew it over to Shao Chun. After seeing Shao Chun's attainments in the saber Tao, Bai Lang immediately picked up the tea and apologized, not putting on any airs at all. Shao Chun opened his mouth and spoke, causing the 18 ancient saber sovereigns to appear. The holy music transcended time and space, arriving at heavenly cauldron city at the same time. If this was not considered a bladesman, then there really were no bladesmen in the world. The crowd did not show any disdain or mockery for Bai Lang's apology. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and caught the teacup. After taking a sip, he placed it on the table and said, "It's fine. Brother Bai is a true bladesman. I can understand your thoughts." Bai Lang nodded slightly without anyone noticing. Then, he continued, "The flawless saber Dao is indeed unique. It makes everyone's eyes light up. It is unprecedented, without any falsehood. Well, I heard your doubts in the second half of your speech. I have some insights that I would like to discuss with Brother Xiao." A thought occurred to Xiao Chun. He smiled and said, "Feel free to speak your mind. Fellow Taoists, if you have any opinions, I hope you can speak your mind freely." The second half of your speech focused on a few questions. I will talk about the first one, using the body as a saber and my thoughts as a saber. How should the saber in my hand be used? Bai Lang paused for a moment, as though he was weighing his words. Then, he continued, "I feel that this question is a little excessive. For us bladesmen, the saber is a part of the body. There is an ancient saying, as long as the saber exists, the person exists. If the saber dies, the person dies." Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he entered deep thought. Using the body as a saber, hair as a saber, clothes as a saber? However, why could one not use a saber as a saber? However, a saber was a saber in the first place. Because of this, he had gotten himself into trouble. Seeing the saber as something like hair or clothes, how should the saber in my hand be used? This question was solved without even needing to be addressed. The Inferno Saber Sovereign's disciple, Lin Yin, smiled and said, "I also have some views on the flawless saber Dao. It does not have to be flawless for it to be perfect. There is no such thing as flawless in the world. However, that does not mean that there is nothing perfect. Perfection does not mean that there are no flaws. For example, Brother Xiao, I felt that the bright moon earlier was the perfect moon. When it is perfect, it is naturally flawless. There had never been such a saber Dao in the world before. Even the saber Daos of the 18 ancient saber sovereigns, which were all-encompassing, did not touch the flawless saber Dao. Being able to participate in this discussion of the saber Dao gave Xiao Chun the feeling of making history. He could foresee that once the flawless saber Dao reached the peak, its name would go down in history, leaving behind a thick stroke in the martial epic. All the bladesmen present were very excited, speaking up enthusiastically. Regardless of whether they were right or wrong, at the very least, they opened up a path for Xiao Chun. From the point of view of others, he could see something different. Finally, after this topic ended, Bai Lang put down his teacup and gently patted the table. The treasure saber at the side, along with its scabbard, sank 1 centimeter into the high platform with a clang. Dang! 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 The others all followed suit, stabbing their own treasured sabers into the stone platform. Immediately, saber chi surged and buzzed. A strong saber intent lingered in the place. Xiao Chun understood that this was the second part of the tea party. Making friends with the saber was also the highlight of the tea party. After all, no matter how good the words were, the effects would only be seen when they fought. With a slight movement, the lunar shadow saber also stabbed into the high platform with its scabbard. Feng Xingxing, I have long heard your great name. Will you give me some pointers? After everyone stabbed their sabers into the high platform, a tall, skinny man in long robes challenged Feng Xingxing to a duel. Feng Xingxing smiled faintly and said, "I can't say that I am giving you pointers. Just exchanging pointers will suffice." Whoosh! The two soared into the air at the same time. Then, they stretched out their hands, and 2 strands of saber light flickered. Their treasured sabers hummed as they drew their scabbards. Then, the two of them started exchanging moves in the air. When the people below looked up slightly, they could clearly see the fight. Occasionally, they discussed it with their friends. The two's fight was remarkable. However, Feng Xingxing was clearly stronger. He was very clear on his talent. He only needed 1 point of the wind saber Dao to make a breakthrough and comprehend, which was the endless gentle breeze. Amid the lingering gentle breeze, saber intent was everywhere. Amid the gentleness, there was killing intent everywhere. After another 200 moves, their opponents took the initiative to admit defeat. The two sheathed their sabers, bowed, and returned to their seats. After that, the tea party slowly reached its climax. Bladesmen from all over made a dazzling appearance. Xiao Chun watched all of them. The ones that left the deepest impression on him were the disciples of the Inferno Saber Sovereign and the Thunder Saber Sovereign, Lin Yin and Dugu Ju. A few people challenged the two. However, the two defeated them within 100 moves. The Thunder Dao and the Raging Flame Dao were brought out to their limits in the two sabers. Surging flames erupted like volcanoes. When the sabers chopped down, red flaming clouds filled the sky for 5 kilometers around, looking startling. Naturally, the one that caught Xiao Qin's attention was the Thunder Saber Sovereign's descendant, Dugu Ju. Xiao Qin's quintessence was lightning attributed in the first place. The will that he comprehended was also the will of thunder. Of course, he wanted to compete with this person. Dugu Ju's saber technique made Xiao Qin's eyes light up. The thunder saber technique that the other party comprehended could be described with 2 words: speed and explosive power. People often used lightning to describe it. When a person's speed reached its limits, their saber would also reach its limits. However, it would be a huge mistake to think that speed was all there was to it. The instantaneous explosive power was similarly horrifying, shaking the entire Heavenly Cauldron Plaza intensely. The power of lightning was not limited to speed and explosive power. Xiao Chun had experienced lightning tribulations, enduring the baptism of thousands of lightning bolts. However, the other party probably understood this principle. After all, he had a greater heavenly martial emperor to teach him. He understood the principle of biting off more than he could chew. Hence, he brought out these 2 characteristics to their limits. Xiao Chun could not help comparing this person to Enjuanshi. If the two fought, it would be very exciting. Xiao Chun, your eloquence leaves others speechless. However, I do not know how many true moves you have. I, Jiang Qingzi, would like to exchange a few moves with you. Chapter 962. The Ghost Race's Jiang Qingzi looked straight at Xiao Chun and challenged him. Everyone immediately became interested. No matter how profound the flawless Saber Dao was in theory, it still required combat prowess to convince others. Xiao Chun gladly accepted. He stretched out his hand and said, "Please." Clang! Jiang Qingzi's figure flashed like a ghost, and he was already standing in the air. The black saber, stabbed into the ground, was already grasped in his hand. Before Xiao Chun could get up, Jiang Qingzi's figure flashed, charging toward Xiao Chun, who was behind the tea table. Dense death chi lingered around Jiang Qingzi's body. As his figure flashed, a horrifying scene of hell materialized behind him. A black saber light flashed and arrived before Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and pressed it against the other party's saber tip. The lightning talisman in his sea of consciousness circulated, and thousands of peach blossoms slowly fell from the sky. Boundless life force surged out from Xiao Chun's body. Spring was the time when all things awakened. This was the time when the life force was the strongest. When the peach blossoms formed a forest, their fragrance spread out for 5 kilometers around. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and sent Jiang Qingzi's somewhat unruly attack flying. Then Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and pinched, and the thousands of peach blossoms turned into one. Then it landed between Xiao Chun's fingers. Then he gently pushed it towards the retreating Jiang Qingzi. Dang! Jiang Qingzi held his saber horizontally in front of him, forming a pitch-black screen of sabers, trying to block this small peach blossom. Who knew, when the peach blossoms bloomed, the power contained in the completed spring saber far surpassed his expectations. It directly blasted him back, and the hell behind him looked like it was going to crumble. Xiao Chun did not give Jiang Qingzi a chance to make up for his mistake. His figure flashed, and a bright saber light radiated from his body. With a clang, saber intent shot out in all directions, turning into saber winds that swept out in all directions, making it difficult to open one's eyes. Xiao Chun executed the summer saber, the autumn saber, and the winter saber consecutively. Flawless 4 seasons intertwined. Amid the snowflakes, Jiangqing Zi's lips leaked blood. Frost covered his body, and an ice sculpture of a flower lingered on his chest. Jiangqing Zi said with some dissatisfaction, "I admit defeat." In just 4 moves, aside from Jiangqing Zi breaking the rules and gaining the initiative, Xiao Chun had been suppressing him with his flawless saber Dao, giving him no chance to resist. The entire place fell silent. Jiangqing Zi's quick defeat was simply unexpected. After this battle, no one would dare to underestimate the combat prowess of the flawless saber Dao. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand, and the ice flower on her chest landed in his palm. "Thank you for going easy on me. Bye-bye Lang, bye-bye Chen's eyes." Xiao Chun Xiao Lang Chen's eyes. Chun. A spark flashed in by Lang's eyes. He stood up and said, "Brother Xiao, how about we exchange a few moves?" Aside from Xiao Chun, the strongest person here was Bai Lang. It was very likely that Bai Lang had comprehended a saber soul as well. Chen's mountains Lang's SS Kings. Xiao Chun felt excited. He was very interested in Bai Lang's suggestion. There were many people here, but Bai Lang was the only one who could truly make him fight to his heart's content. However, just as Xiao Chun was about to agree, a discordant voice suddenly came from outside. "How lively, Brother Bai Lang. Unexpectedly, despite your mediocre skills with the saber, you are rather good at hosting this tea party. I was wondering if I should invite Brother Bai to help out at the Sword Sect tea party in 3 days. The discordant voice in the air approached from afar, causing Xiao Chun and Bai Lang to frown involuntarily. Everyone looked up and saw a few sword lights flying over from the distance. The strong sword intent was unparalleled. Even from far away, they could feel the overwhelming aura. These people are coming with ill intentions. It's the Sword Sovereign's disciples. I guess that these fellows would definitely come to the tea party to cause trouble. The Sword Sovereign's first disciple, Qin Shaoqing, who is as famous as Wen Xiren. Unexpectedly, he is here as well. Wen Xiren is not here. This is going to be troublesome. Some of the profound domain's native bladesmen did not find the arrival of these swordsmen strange. It was like they had expected it. It looked like the conflict between the saber and the sword had been going on for a long time in the profound domain. Furthermore, the conflict was extraordinarily large. Xiao Chun thought about his encounter at Sword Forging Peak. Be it a bladesman or a swordsman, they did not find each other pleasing to the eye. It was not hard to guess the other party's purpose in coming. The Sword Dao Tea Party was about to begin. The 3 of them must have taken advantage of the situation to ruin the Saber Dao Tea Party and strengthen the reputation of the Sword Dao Tea Party. In the profound domain, the Saber Sovereign and the Sword Sovereign stood side by side. This made the conflict between the saber and the sword much more intense than anywhere else. Bai Lang looked up. He did not show much shock or anger on his face. He only smiled with some pity. "They came faster than I expected. Brother Xiao Chun, I'm afraid we will not be able to fight this time." Xiao Chun sized up the person with the strongest aura in the distance. Then he asked, "Is this Qin Shaoqing very strong?" "Very strong. Among the younger generation bladesmen of the profound domain, only my senior brother can defeat him. Among the swordsmen, aside from that Yan Shi-san, who is even more mysterious than my senior brother, no one could stop him. The 2 people beside him, Gu Jinheng and Lu Kuan, are also Sword Sovereign's disciples. I am not confident of defeating them." As Bai Lang spoke, Qin Shaoqing led his 2 junior brothers, Gu Jinheng and Lu Kuan, to within 500 meters of the crowd. All of them had startling auras, and their gazes were like swords, showing stern expressions. Shaoqing raised his eyebrows and looked past these 3 people. Even further away, there were 3 black dots with strong auras. These people gave Xiao Chun a familiar feeling. However, they were too far away. He could not see them with his spiritual sense, so he could only keep an eye on them. 50 kilometers away, 2 men and 1 woman hovered in the air. The man on the left was handsome and had an extraordinary aura. His cultivation was unfathomable. However, that was still considered normal. The man on the right had a handsome face that could topple cities. He had a deep and enchanting aura, a fatal attraction to women. It was hard to imagine that there could be such a handsome man in the world. The girl in the middle was not inferior to him at all. She had a face that could bring disaster to a nation. Every frown and smile of hers could captivate the soul, captivating people. The girl was the Fox King's adopted daughter Bai. The handsome man was the spirit fox race's genius, Yuan Su. The other person was the Peacock King's descendant, Kong Yuan. The younger generation of the Fiend domain was weaker than the other four races. If not for these three people rising up, the Fiend race would be in an even worse state in this great age. Big Brother Yuan, why don't we follow them? The tea party will definitely be very lively. Who knows, Elder Brother Xiao Chan might be there, Bai said, feeling confused. Yuan Su explained. Qin Shaoqing's trip involves the competition between the saber and the sword in the profound domain. If we go together, it will cause a misunderstanding, making them think that we are with them. Just wait for him here. We're just using his relationship to get you into the Heavenly Sword Pavilion to read the ancient books. There is no need to offend the profound domain's Saber Sovereign's bloodline for him. As for Xiao Chun, I once heard that the Heavenly Cauldron City's young city lord publicly stated that he would not give him an invitation and would not appear here. Bai revealed a disappointed expression. She sighed and said, I have not seen Elder Brother Xiao Chun for several years. I wonder if Elder Brother Xiao Chun still remembers Bai. Kong Yuan smiled and said, There is no need to worry. Bai is very obedient. If he dares to forget, I will definitely teach him a lesson. Furthermore, since he appeared at Sword Forging Peak, he will not leave the profound domain anytime soon. There will definitely be a chance for us to meet again. Bai nodded and said, Right. This time, we definitely can't miss out on Elder Brother Xiao Chun. As Yuan Su and Kong Yuan looked at Bai, they revealed gentle and doting expressions. They envied Xiao Chun in their hearts. After so many years, Bai still could not forget him. When the three people from the Sword Sovereign's faction arrived on the tall platform, the atmosphere in the air became extremely tense. The azure-clad swordsman Qin Shaoqing casually sized up the bladesmen below with grave expressions. He smiled and said, There's no need to be so nervous. With your cultivations, I would not even look at most of you, much less make a move against you. Arrogant. Everyone here was an outstanding youth, a proud and unruly person. Qin Shaoqing's words immediately upset several of them. The Inferno Saber Sovereign's disciple, Lin Yin, was not a native of the profound domain. He had never heard of Qin Shaoqing's name before. He snorted coldly and took out his treasure saber, soaring into the air and chopping at Qin Shaoqing. Intense flames burned the clouds for 5 kilometers around. The might of one saber filled the sky with red clouds, looking boundlessly vast. Qin Shaoqing stood upright with his hands behind his back, not making a move. Gu Jianheng, who stood on his right, drew his sword and charged forward. When Gu Jianheng unleashed his strong sword intent, he immediately suppressed Lin Yan's aura. The 5 kilometers of fiery clouds shrank significantly, and even their speed slowed. Sword Soul, someone below exclaimed. This Gu Jianheng's sword intent had already risen to a higher-level Sword Soul, completely suppressing Lin Yan. Dang! The might of one sword strike forced back the surging and horrifying Lin Yan. Lin Yan moved back 1 kilometer, his chi and blood surging. This was just a probing move. The difference in strength was clear. If they fought for real, barring any surprises, Lin Yan would lose after 500 moves. When Bai Lang saw this scene, he frowned slightly and said, Qin Shaoqing, what are you trying to do? The purpose of the tea party is to exchange pointers and discuss the Tao. It is not for you to show off your might. Gu Jianheng smiled coldly and said, If you are not capable, why are you trying to imitate your seniors and hold a tea party? Today, we are here to slap your face. In the future, you bladesmen should be more low profile in the profound domain. Don't think that just because when Xiren appeared, you can ride all over us swordsmen. The saber will always be inferior to the sword. Qin Shaoqing glanced at the treasure saber stuck in the ground and said, Right now, you are making friends with the saber, right? Coincidentally, I want to use the sword as well. Let me spar with everyone. Bang! Bang! Qin Shaoqing stretched out his hand and stabbed the treasure sword into the platform. When the sword qi spread out, it knocked away the other people's treasured sabers. If someone defeats me, I will personally apologize and leave immediately. If no one defeats me, then I will personally apologize. If no one can defeat me, I feel that there is no need for the Saber Dao Tea Party to continue. Qin Shaoqing appeared insufferably arrogant. His tone was startlingly arrogant, not caring about the crowd at all. Bai Lang's heart sank. This Qin Shaoqing must be doing this on purpose. He must have gotten news that senior brother one had something to do and could not rush over, so he purposely came to cause trouble. Furthermore, Qin Shaoqing was very ambitious, wanting to disrupt the inheritance of the Tea Party. Chapter 963. The Saber Sovereign and the Sword Sovereign did not get along. They had been competing for supremacy for more than 1,000 years, but neither could do anything to the other. If Qin Shaoqing really ruined today's matter to the point of losing all face and news of this reached Xiao Chen's master, he would definitely punish him. Just one Gu Jianheng easily knocked back the Inferno Saber Sovereign's disciple, Lin Yan. Although there were many bladesmen here, who would dare to challenge Qin Shaoqing? What's wrong? You don't even have that much courage? Qin Shaoqing mocked. Bai Lang, are the people you gather a bunch of trash? You can't even find someone with some courage. I think there is really no need for this tea party to continue. Rage surged in Bai Lang's heart. He simply could not endure this. He raised his foot, wanting to step forward and accept Qin Shaoqing's challenge. However, someone was faster than him. Right after Qin Shaoqing spoke, Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he leaped forward. Brother Xiao, this is a competition between the saber and the sword of my profound domain. Let me do it. Seeing Xiao Chen step forward, Bai Lang's first reaction was gratitude. However, he still advised Xiao Chen not to make a move, so he immediately sent a voice projection. Xiao Chen replied calmly, Brother Bai Lang, what are your chances of victory? 40%. Can the Saber Dao Tea Party afford to lose face like this? Not at all. Since I've stood out, I'm 100% confident. Brother Bai, just watch. Using voice projection, the two quickly exchanged a few words. Then, Bai Lang remained silent. Xiao Chen's consecutive questions already clearly pointed out the crux of the problem. Qin Shaoqing sized up Xiao Chen, who stepped forward. Then he smiled and said, Bai Lang, is that all you are capable of? Sending an outsider up. It turns out that the Saber Sovereign's bloodline is indeed cowardly. Xiao Chen retorted indifferently. There is no need for the young city lord to make a move to deal with you. What shameless boasting. Is it your turn to speak to our young master here? Gu Jianheng snorted coldly. Then, he raised his sword and turned into a beam of sword light, charging at Xiao Chen. Behind him, there were 9 balls of light that looked like blazing suns. They were like 9 brilliant suns, and the light was so dazzling that no one dared to look at them directly. The might of Xiao Chen's small perfection sword soul spread out, emitting a vigorous aura. On the high platform, some of the wooden tables behind Xiao Chen immediately shattered. Some of the bladesmen got up and retreated, circulating their energies to block. Their expressions were somewhat unsightly. Sword intent and sword soul were essentially the same, but the difference between the two was like water and ice. The latter's might was several times greater than the former's. A swordsman who comprehended a sword soul held an overwhelming advantage over a bladesman who did not. Unless there was a huge gap in their cultivation, their chances of victory were slim. This Gu Jianheng before Xiao Chen relied on the might of his sword soul to take Xiao Chen down a notch, forcing him to retreat. However, Xiao Chen's feet did not move at all. No matter how the other party drove the might of his sword soul, his body remained like an old tree, unmoving like a mountain. If one looked carefully, even his hair and clothes did not move. The reason was none other than the small perfection saber soul hidden in Xiao Chen's purple lightning talisman already spread throughout his entire body. With the help of the immortal will of thunder, how could the other party touch him? Xiao Chen's small perfection saber soul already possessed the immortal attribute. It was an immortal saber soul. Unless the other party also comprehended a will and had an attribute that rivaled the immortal attribute, they would not be able to suppress him with just might. How can this be? Gu Jianheng paled slightly, not daring to believe the scene before him. He had already unleashed the might of his small perfection sword soul without holding anything back. However, not to mention flying back in a sorry state, Xiao Qin's hair did not even move. Qin Shaoqing's expression changed slightly. His eyes widened as he understood the reason behind it. He said, "Junior brother Jianheng, you have not comprehended a will. Quickly back off." However, it was already too late. Boom! The immortal saber soul that Xiao Qian had infused into his body burst out. Clang, 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 clang. Metallic clangs of saber and sword clashing rang out continuously in the air. Intense shockwaves exploded in the air. The saber wind and sword wind intertwined, forming a twisting hurricane that surged out. Everywhere the hurricane passed, aside from the 18 stone pillars of the saber's sovereigns, the buildings and statues in the plaza shattered under the might of this boundless hurricane. The hurricane was filled with terrifying saber chi and sword chi. Occasionally, lightning and fiery light flickered, looking extremely horrifying. Gu Jianheng and Lu Kuan had already been knocked back the instant Xiao Qian unleashed his immortal saber soul. At this moment, the ones clashing in the plaza were Qin Shaoqing and Xiao Qian. The various mysterious phenomena were the result of their intense battle. Although it was an intense battle, the two on the tall platform did not move at all. They only looked at each other coldly as they continuously unleashed their saber soul and sword soul. In the end, lightning flashed and thunder roared around Xiao Qian. Purple saber chi flew everywhere. Scorching flames floated around Qin Shaoqing's body. Snow-white sword chi danced around wildly, releasing a world-shaking state of destruction. The two's auras soared to their limits. The saber light and sword light on their bodies were already as resplendent as the sun. They soared into the clouds, their voices echoing for 5 kilometers around. The people in the Heavenly Cauldron Plaza had already retreated to the side, watching from afar. Only Bai Lang, Feng Xingxing, Lin Yin, Dugaju, and a few others dared to get close to watch. Be it a bladesman or a swordsman, Wu Wan's path was much more difficult than that of regular cultivators. A strong saber intent and sword intent already gave them the qualifications to challenge those of a higher cultivation realm. At the same time, they also comprehended wills, which contained a certain attribute. Aside from demonic geniuses, there was no other way to describe such a swordsman or bladesman. Right now, there were two such demonic geniuses facing each other on the tall platform. Bai Lang's expression turned grave as he muttered to himself, "Qin Shaoqing is truly unfathomable. His will of fire actually contains the state of destruction. No wonder he dared to barge in with just the 3 of them. With such strength, he would not fear being surrounded by people of the same generation." However, what surprised Bai Lang even more was Xiao Qian. Originally, he had never thought of roping him into the tea party. Not only did Xiao Qian discuss the Tao over tea, but he also caused the ancient people to show themselves and the 18 saber sovereigns to speak at the same time. Such a miraculous scene appeared at the tea party. Now, Xiao Qian blocked the sword sovereign's first disciple, who came to cause trouble. All of this gave Bai Lang an unimaginable shock. The two attacked at the same time. Qin Shaoqing drew his sword. The treasure's sword looked like frost, giving off a cold light. Then, he thrust it at Xiao Qian's throat. A surging fiery light howled behind Qin Shaoqing. This sword strike was like a volcano that had been dormant for hundreds of years. The sky shook, and many cracks appeared in the ground. Xiao Qian took a step forward, and a bright moon rose behind him. With a flash, spring thunder roared, and peach blossoms bloomed for 5 kilometers around. Then, he pointed with his finger and blocked the tip of the other party's sword. A horrifying explosion resounded, and the two each took 10 steps back. A fiery sword qi containing an intense state of destruction surged out from Xiao Chen's body, surging unparalleled. The moment it entered, it wanted to tear Xiao Chen's meridians, flesh, bones, and skin to shreds. It possessed startling destructive power. The attack was ferocious and intense. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. He used 5 times his law energy, turning it into purple lightning before he managed to destroy this sword qi. If Xiao Chen had been a little slower or not been decisive enough, using only 2 or 3 times his law energy, his right hand would have been crippled. An immortal energy flowed through the sword and into Qin Shaoqing's body. It felt like needles piercing through his meridians and bones. Qin Shaoqing's right hand, which held the sword, felt a heart-wrenching pain. That energy was full of life force, possessing a strong life force. Qin Shaoqing tried to extinguish it a few times, but a strand of electric light leaped out and regrew like a seed. The tall platform under Xiao Chen's feet was already in tatters, leaving only the 18 stone pillars standing alone. Both of them looked at each other with a hint of caution. This place is not big enough. If you want to fight, come with me outside the city. Xiao Chen said indifferently. Electric light flashed under his feet, and he flew out of Heavenly Cauldron City. At Martial Sage, the range of a fight was already startlingly large. Earlier, in the gathering of friends with the saber, the various bladesmen had purposely suppressed their cultivations. These bladesmen did not have any intention of fighting, only exchanging pointers. Their destructive power would not be sufficient. However, now, Xiao Chen and Qin Shaoqing's reputation was at stake. Clearly, they had to decide who was stronger. They had no choice but to bring out their full strength. A strange light flashed in Qin Shaoqing's eyes. Before he came, he already knew that when Xiren was not around. He was very confident that he could turn this Saber Dao tea party into a joke. At the same time, he would establish the reputation of this Saber Dao tea party. Unexpectedly, a white-robed bladesman suddenly appeared out of nowhere. This immediately messed up Qin Shaoqing's plans. I want to see what kind of person you are to dare to block my attack. In the profound domain, Qin Shaoqing could be said to not fear anything. As a disciple of the Sword Sovereign, Qin Shaoqing looked down on most cultivators of the same generation. He had never truly feared anyone. A fiery light streaked across the sky like a meteor, leaving a long trail of flames lingering in the air for a long time. Qin Shaoqing did not hesitate to chase after Xiao Chen out of Heavenly Cauldron City. Standing far away from the city by Kong Yuan and Kong Yuan, who were waiting for Qin Shaoqing, suddenly discovered 2 beams of intense light flying towards them. This is not good. Qin Shaoqing probably ran into Xiren. Let's move aside first and not interfere. Yuan Su's expression changed slightly, and he quickly revealed his true form, turning into a jade-white 9-tailed spirit fox with a surging fiendish qi. Yuan Su carried by and Kong Yuan and leaped into the air, moving 5 kilometers away. The two exchanged only one move, but the commotion they caused left a deep impression on the many bladesmen present. Seeing the two leave the city, hundreds of figures immediately flew out of the city and gave chase, not wanting to miss the scene of the fight. By the time the two gave chase, Xiao Chen and Qin Shaoqing, who were 50 kilometers away from the city, had already exchanged more than 100 moves. There was always a bright moon hanging high in the sky, shrouding everything within a 50-kilometer radius in the night. However, the sky was not dark in this night. Be it Xiao Chen's will of thunder or the lightning that occasionally leaked out, they lit up the sky. Chapter 9:64. Furthermore, the resplendent flames around Qin Shaoqing never stopped burning. This night did not seem dark at all. Instead, it was strangely bright, forming a strange scene. The two exchanged moves below a mountain range that spanned 50 kilometers. The birds and beasts in the forest had already fled in fright, and all the plants and trees were destroyed. Qin Shaoqing's sword qi possessed unparalleled destructive power. As the sword qi surged out, large swathes of trees turned into dust. The ground turned into yellow dirt. Not a single blade of grass could be seen, and cracks spread out. In an instant, the shock waves from the two's exchange turned the mountain range for 50 kilometers into a barren, rocky mountain. Such a horrifying scene prompted the Heavenly Cauldron City bladesmen who came to watch the fight to stay far away, lest they accidentally get caught up in the shock waves and end up in trouble. Shao Chun had already executed flawless 4 seasons several times. However, he could not do anything to Qin Shaoqing. Qin Shaoqing's sword techniques had many killing moves. Furthermore, before the strong destructive attribute, the might of all the killing moves increased significantly. Shaoqing used brute force to destroy flawless 4 seasons. Unable to execute the killing moves of Cycle of Seasons and Cycle of Life and Death, Shao Chun fell into a passive position. Left without a choice, Shao Chun could only bring out his immortal will of thunder and use his flawless saber, Dao, to materialize the lightning tribulation saber technique, using brute force to counter brute force. More than 100 lightning dragons appeared. Jinlin had 2 horns on their heads. They circled around and roared ferociously, shaking their heads and wagging their tails. They looked very lifelike. They could even spit out lightning dragon breaths to disrupt Qin Shaoqing. Naturally, the dragon breaths were not true dragon breaths. They were the manifestation of purple lightning saber chi. However, they were not weak at all. Occasionally, the lightning dragon breaths landed on the mountain peaks below. The 1-kilometer-tall peaks vanished in an instant, as if a monster had bitten them off. The lightning tribulation saber technique was boundlessly tyrannical. Every time Shao Chun punched or sent out a palm strike, a saber light flashed. In the next moment, lightning dragons appeared to block the overbearing Qin Shaoqing. True flame burned on Qin Shaoqing's sword. Every time he swung it, flames surged and surged, creating an intense explosion. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe that terrifying destructive power as earth-shattering. It shook the entire mountain range for hundreds of kilometers, causing countless boulders to tumble down. Seeing that the other party's lightning dragons seemed to be endless, able to block his sword moves every time, Qin Shaoqing frowned, unwilling to continue fighting like this. 9 suns rise together. The golden crow destroys the world. With a loud shout, the 25 kilometers of resplendent flames behind him quickly gathered and condensed into 9 3-legged golden crows. Each of the golden crows was as dazzling as the sun. Shao Chun pointed with his sword, and the 9 huge flaming golden crows turned into 9 streaks of golden light that charged at the 100 lightning dragons. Kacha kacha! The golden crow was incomparably savage. With a swipe of its 3 legs, it tore the golden crows in half, causing them to wail endlessly. Shao Chen's heart sank. The golden crow, condensed by the other party's true life flame, far surpassed his lightning dragon in terms of divine nature. It was the bane of lightning dragon. Divine lightning tribulation. Chop! With a thought, Shao Chun quickly gathered the remaining lightning dragons. Then, the will of the purple lightning talisman continuously strengthened them. A golden bolt of divine lightning appeared in the air and turned into a saber chi that chopped down at the 9 golden crows. The might of the divine lightning tribulation appeared on the spot, knocking the 9 sun-like golden crows back. The light of their flames dimmed significantly. This opportunity could not be missed. Shao Chun took a step back, and his pupils constricted. The Soul Slayer bow appeared in his right hand. Then, he knocked the Starbreaker arrow and pulled back the bowstring. 1 dragon force circulated in Shao Chen's body. His bones gave off a thunderous rumble. The infusion of 5,000 tons of force caused the Soul Slayer attack to release an overwhelming cold chi, immediately expelling the heat from the flaming golden crows. Qin Shaoqing's expression changed. As he looked at the bow in Shao Chen's hand, he had a bad feeling. Shao Chun sheathed his sword and circulated the law energy in his body, wanting to merge the 9 golden crows. Whoosh! However, he was too late in the end. Shao Chun let go, and the Starbreaker arrow flashed with light. The 9 golden crows shot out and destroyed the killing move that Qin Shaoqing had spent a lot of effort on. Xiao Qin's lightning dragons were destroyed. However, this change also destroyed all 9 of Qin Shaoqing's golden crows. Qin Shaoqing did not gain an advantage, either. The two in the sky fell into an anxious state once more. After exchanging a few moves, they knew how difficult it was to deal with the other party, so they became more cautious. Bai Lang stood beside Lin Yin and the others. He sighed and said, "Brother Xiao lacks a good saber. Otherwise, he would not be in such a passive position. This Qin Shaoqing is really incredible. He is the first disciple of the Sword Sovereign. Indeed, he cannot be underestimated." Feng Xingxing shook his head. Xiao Chun, who was in the air, was clearly on the defensive against Qin Shaoqing's blazing barrage of attacks. He was at a disadvantage. The Inferno Saber Sovereign's disciple, Lin Yin, smiled and said, "As the saying goes, things that are too hard are easy to break." Although Qin Shaoqing's attacks are ferocious, if he still does not have a suppressive advantage after 100 moves, he will lose for sure. Bai Lang nodded and said, "That's right. The crucial thing now is whether Xiao Chun can last 100 moves or not. Without a weapon in his hand, he can only use his physical body to receive Qin Shaoqing's sword moves that contain the destructive attribute. No matter how strong his physical body is, there will come a time when he cannot hold on." Dugaju, who rarely spoke, did not think highly of Xiao Chun. He said sullenly, "It will be a little difficult. I think that Xiao Chen's body can no longer hold on. If he receives another 100 moves, he will definitely collapse. Using your physical body to receive 300 moves from me. Even if you have a body of steel, you should not be able to hold on now, right?" Qin Shaoqing showed a calm expression as he smiled coldly at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm, and he did not explain much. His physical body had already reached peak rank 3 sage body. Furthermore, he had consumed many divine materials to nourish his body. His physical body was no weaker than the blue-robed emperor's. Although the other party's attacks were tyrannical, and Xiao Chen's physical body was significantly injured, it would be impossible for Xiao Chen's physical body to collapse without at least 200 moves. Seeing that his words did not work, Qin Shaoqing snorted coldly, and his attacks became even more ferocious. In the blink of an eye, 50 moves had passed. The shock waves from 50 kilometers of the mountain range below broke off half of it. It was a frightening sight. Qin Shaoqing saw that Xiao Chun was still very lively, not showing any panic on his delicate face. Qin Shaoqing could not help feeling anxious. He was very clear on his own situation. His sword moves were tyrannical and unparalleled. Every move was a killing move. Every move could bring out the ferocious might of a volcano eruption. However, it exhausted a lot of energy as well. If he still could not take down Xiao Chun, he would really use up all the law energy in his body. At that time, no matter how capable he was, he would not be able to bring it out. He would only be able to sit and wait for death. I cannot afford to lose. Otherwise, I will lose too much face. I can only decide victory in one move. However, just at this moment, something strange happened. Xiao Chun, who had been on the defensive all this while, suddenly moved. Taking advantage of Qin Shaoqing's momentary panic, he charged over first. 18 blue dragons circled around Qin Shaoqing. A horrifying dragon might spread out, and many azure saber lights hacked down. This was Xiao Chen's strongest move, Flawless Blue Dragon, subduing Dragon Profound Slash. The might that this move burst out with was actually no weaker than Xiao Chen's strong sword intent erupting like a volcano. Saber lights chopped down, a total of 18 saber lights. They chopped down continuously, not giving Qin Shaoqing any time to think or a chance to execute a killing move. When the final saber light landed, Qin Shaoqing's sword move was completely disrupted. He vomited a mouthful of blood and went flying back. Myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending, tenfold combat prowess. After much difficulty, Xiao Chun managed to catch the other party's weakness and catch him off guard, injuring him. How could he miss out on this opportunity to deal a fatal blow? Clang! Clang! Just at this moment, two sword lights lit up in the sky. Sword intent connected to the soul as they charged at Xiao Chun without any warning. The timing of these two moves was very coincidental. They happened to be the instant Xiao Chen's body was enveloped by the divine light. Furthermore, they were fatal strikes from the two without holding anything back. Xiao Chun had already exhausted a lot of his energy. His physical body was severely injured. There was no way for him to dodge. The winner takes all. Xiao Chun, so what if you can endure, see through others, and have sharp eyes? I never said that I would fight you one-on-one. Qin Shaoqing smiled coldly. Then, he quickly suppressed the injuries in his body. A vicious look flashed on his face. Then, he charged at Xiao Chun. The three formed an encirclement. The situation instantly reversed. Xiao Chun, who had just gained the upper hand, was now in grave danger. The expressions of Bai Lang and the others changed drastically. Clearly, they had not expected the two to be so despicable. It was already too late to save Xiao Chun now. Elder brother Xiao Chun, just make your move. Bai, help me block these bad people. A fragrant wind blew in the chilly battlefield. A pretty figure rushed over at lightning speed. In the time it took for a spark to fly, she drew the sword at her waist. Immediately, snow-white feathers fluttered in the air. A sword light shook everyone's hearts, humming endlessly. With a casual move, it blocked Gu Jianheng's and Lu Kuan's killing moves. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. When he saw Qin Shaoqing's expression change, he said coldly, "To think that the Sword Sovereign's faction could produce trash like you. Today, you not only embarrassed yourself, but also the entire profound domain swordsman." Bang! The fearless Xiao Chun punched out with 10 dragon force. Boom! He sent Qin Shaoqing, who was charging over, flying, crashing into a mountain peak. The mountain peak crumbled, burying Qin Shaoqing with a loud rumble. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Gu Jianheng, Lu Kuan, you two bastards. Bring Qin Shaoqing and scram out of Heavenly Cauldron City. Bai Lang led Feng Xingxing and dozens of others over. Without saying anything, they surrounded Gu Jianheng and Lu Kuan, who Bai Lang had stopped, and beat them up. Since the other party broke the rules first, Bai Lang did not have to hold back. No matter how powerful the two were, they would only be asking for a beating. Gu Jianheng and Lu Kuan were beaten black and blue. The other party was the Sword Sovereign's faction. Bai Lang and the others didn't dare to kill them, but they couldn't help but suffer some physical pain. They had lost a lot of face this time. The two's original plan was to take down Xiao Chun when he least expected it. Then, they would use their first senior brother's strength to sweep through the others. At that time, the winner would be the king, and the loser would be the thief. The world would only remember that Qin Shaoqing swept through the Saber Dao Tea Party. No one would care about the two sneak attacks. Unexpectedly, Xiao Bai suddenly appeared. The Spirit Fox King's adopted daughter, who was originally with them, blocked them at the crucial moment. Yuan Shurchun, you can forget about entering the Heavenly Sword Pavilion again. Chapter 965. Gu Jianheng said hatefully. Then he led Lu Kuan to dig out Qin Shaoqing, who was buried in the mountain, and ran back in a sorry state. I did not mind. She smiled faintly and stood obediently behind Xiao Chun. Brother Xiao, this tea party is all thanks to you. Bai Lang performed a cupped fist salute in thanks. Xiao Chun replied calmly, Brother Bai, you are too polite. I like the atmosphere of the tea party. I've benefited a lot from the tea party. If someone tries to cause trouble, I will naturally do my best. A thought occurred to Bai Lang. He suggested, how about we let Brother Xiao host the next Saber Dao Tea party? I'll let my master know. It should not be a problem. That's right. Brother Xiao, if we are still alive 10 years from now, you can host the next tea party. The others all started encouraging as well. They had no objections to Xiao Chun hosting the tea party. On the contrary, they looked forward to it. When Xiao Chun heard this, he could not help feeling tempted. However, after thinking for a while, he still rejected the idea. While hosting the tea party looked simple, it required a lot of effort and resources. It was too much of a hassle. Bai Lang smiled faintly and said, Don't be in a rush to reject me. If you are willing, You can come and look for me at any time. There are still some things that I need to deal with. I'll take my leave first." At this point, the tea party came to a rather satisfactory end. After the others said their goodbyes to Xiao Chun, they left one after another. After everyone left, Xiao Chun turned around and looked at Bai. After not seeing her for so many years, she had completely grown up. The youthful and inexperienced look of the past could no longer be found in this charming face that could bring disaster to nations. Amid her charming aura, there was now an air of nobility that could not be profaned. This was the status of the Fox King's adopted daughter. Whether she was willing or not, this gave her the status of a holy daughter in the fiend domain. Xiao Chan felt somewhat distracted. Is this still the delicate and pure Bai from back then? Xiao Chen casually glanced around and saw an exquisite gourd hanging at Bai's waist. Xiao Chen couldn't help but smile. No matter how he changed, Bai would always be the same Bai. Hee, big brother Xiao Chun, don't look at Bai like that. Bai blushed as she lowered her head. It was clear that after all these years of growth, she had a better understanding of the relationship between men and women. Xiao Chen smiled gently and returned to his senses. "Yuan Shurchun, I heard Gu Jining call you by that name." Bai raised his head with a serious expression and said, "Yes, this is the name my adoptive father gave me. From now on, only brother Xiao Chun can call Bai." Xiao Chen thought about it and agreed. When he was in the Sky Dome realm, it was fine for others to call him Bai. However, with Bai's current status, it would be a little inappropriate for others to call him Bai. "Elder brother Xiao Chun, you should treat your injuries first." "There's no need to talk," Bai said worriedly when she thought of something. Indeed, every sword strike of Qin Shaoqing's destructive sword intent was like a volcano erupting. Its destructive power was startling. After receiving hundreds of moves, his physical body had already sustained significant injuries. 10 kilometers in the sky, Kong Yuan and Yuan Su stood on a white cloud. Kong Yuan smiled and said, "That's true. I have not seen Brother Xiao Chan for a long time already. I'll go down and greet him first." Yuan Su pulled Kong Yuan back and said, "Blockhead, do you think it is appropriate to go down and greet him now? What's wrong? Xiao Chun saved my life in the Sage Mark Monument. Although I envy Xiao Chun as well, there is no need to make it so obvious. Not even greeting him," Kong Yuan said in dissatisfaction. Helplessness appeared on Yuan Su's charming face. He could only call Kong Yuan an idiot in his heart. Then, he said impatiently, "See for yourself. If you really go down, I believe that Shurchen will not speak to a blockhead like you for at least half a year." Kong Yuan looked carefully and saw Xiao Chun sitting cross-legged on a distant peak, circulating his energy to treat his injuries. Bai supported his head with his hand, smiling gently at Xiao Chun. The scene was silent, giving off a warm and peaceful feeling. Kong Yuan suddenly startled awake. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "We can greet him at any time. There is no need for it now. However, after offending Qin Shaoqing, it will be somewhat problematic to enter the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. If she does not want to enter, then so be it. For the sake of Xiao Chun, this girl will probably give up the divine weapon, much less the Heavenly Sword Pavilion," Yuan Su said with a smile. Kong Yuan chuckled and said, "Speaking of which, Yuan Su, why do I feel that your words are extraordinarily sour? This is not like you, the most handsome man of our fiend race." Yuan Su kept a straight face. After being poked at in his weak spot, he directly looked away, ignoring Yuan Su. When Xiao Chun finished circulating his energy to treat his injuries, he chatted with Bai for a while. He finally understood Bai's purpose in coming to the profound domain. The snow feather sword that Yanshur San gave to Bai was very suitable for Bai. Unfortunately, it did not have an item spirit, so it could not become a peak subdivine weapon, much less a divine weapon. As Xiao Chen's strength increased, the snow feather sword's need to nurture an item spirit became urgent. Xiao Chen's purpose in coming to Sword Forging Peak was to ask Situ Leihong to nurture an item spirit for the snow feather sword. Situ Leihong agreed to help on the condition that Bai could make it into the top 10 of the sword school ranking and give him the 10,000-year-old essence iron. Coincidentally, Xiao Qin's and Bai's goals were surprisingly similar. Elder brother Xiao Chun, it has been almost 3 years. Why have you not gone to the fiend domain to visit Bai? Bai said begrudgingly as she leaned on Xiao Qin's shoulder. Her eyes were somewhat red. It had been 3 years. Xiao Qin had clearly promised to visit Xiao Chun in the Kunping King's grave palace. However, even after waiting for so long, Xiao Chun still did not come. At first, Xiao Chun occasionally heard news of Xiao Qin. Later, Xiao Chun went to the lower realm, and there was no news of him. Rumor had it that he died trapped in the Sage Mark Monument. Bai sneaked out and stood before the Sage Mark Monument, unable to enter. Who knew how many times he cried? If not for the Fox King obtaining news from the Haotian Emperor and going to the lower realm, Bai would still have to guard the Sage Mark Monument to the death, waiting for it to open again. Bai did not tell Xiao Chun about all this. All the anticipation and concern in her heart remained in her heart. However, now that they met again, she could not help telling Xiao Chun about it. Xiao Chen's heart ached. He did not know how to answer. While 3 years was a long time, to him, there had been no time to relax or rest at all. This was especially so after Ao Jiao's death, which made Xiao Chun feel even more guilty. Hence, he cultivated without eating or sleeping, unable to care about anything else. He only knew that Bai was doing very well at the Fox King's side, so he felt assured. Back then, the little fox on Seven-Horn Mountain beside Mo City had changed so much, even gaining strength equal to Xiao Qin's and the status of the fiend domain's holy daughter. Sorry, I stopped crying and smiled. Elder brother Xiao Chun, there is no need to say sorry. It is Bai's fault. Bai is too selfish. As long as elder brother Xiao Chun can be happy and I can hear news of elder brother Xiao Chun, Bai will be satisfied. A cool breeze blew without a shadow. Xiao Chun felt complicated emotions in his heart. After so many years, Xiao Chun thought that Bai, who had grown up, would slowly recognize his dependence on Xiao Chun and separate it from his feelings. Xiao Chun shook his head. Suddenly, he thought of something. He said, "That's right. Where are Yuan Su and Kong Yuan? Didn't they come with you?" A crafty look flashed in Bai's eyes. She smiled mischievously and said, "That's right. Those two fellows are too overboard. When they saw elder brother Xiao Chun, they did not even greet me. I will teach them a lesson when I get back." Elder brother Xiao Chun, tell me more about Qingyan Peak. Bai really wants to know how elder sister Ruyue and that elder brother Suifeng are doing now. 3 days later, all the cultivators in the inns of various sizes in Heavenly Cauldron City were discussing the various scenes from the tea party without exception. Be it the 18 ancient saber sovereign speeches that transcended time and space, attracting a deluge of heavenly flowers, spreading for 50 kilometers around. Be it the shocking battle between the first disciple of the Sword Sovereign and Xiao Chun, destroying the 50-kilometer mountain range. Everyone took delight in talking about it. They could talk about it for a month without feeling tired. This tea party would definitely be passed down for 10,000 years, leaving a deep mark in the long river of history. At that time, you did not see it. Qin Shaoqing and the other two came with a threatening aura. Gu Jinheng forced back the Inferno Saber Sovereign with one sword strike, threatening to slap the Inferno Saber Sovereign's face. Who knew? In the end, the three of them were beaten into a sorry state. Now, the news has already reached the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Now, this group of swordsmen will not be able to raise their heads for half a year. I heard that the 18 ancient sages' speeches and the person who defeated Qin Shaoqing were all done by the Tianwu Domain's white-robed Xiao Chun. Is that true? How can it be false? Several bladesmen at the tea party saw it with their own eyes. How could it be false? In the largest inn of Heavenly Cauldron City, there were no surprises. The idle bladesmen chatting and then all focused on the tea party 3 days ago. There were fewer cultivators on the third floor. At a table by the window, Xiao Chun was busy writing, recording the various saber daos of the 18 saber sovereigns at the tea party. Xiao Chen's comprehension ability was startling, far surpassing that of all the bladesmen at that time. Hence, he gained the most. Amid the overlapping sages, he memorized all 18 saber daos, not missing a single one. Of course, He only recorded them down and did not comprehend them on the spot. Furthermore, he had his own flawless saber Tao. Even the saber Tao of the ancients could only be used as a reference. However, while Shao Chun did not need these saber Taos, it did not mean that others did not need them. For example, the bloody young master Yi Chun cultivated the massacre saber Tao. If Shao Chun could give the ancient saber sovereign's comprehension of the massacre saber Tao to him, it would be a huge favor, enough to make him wild with joy. On the other side of the table, Bai drank fine wine. Her pretty face flushed slightly as she quietly watched Shao Chun, who was concentrating. After Shao Chun finished recording the final set of the heavenly saber Tao, he heaved a sigh of relief. Then he glanced at Bai, who was across from him. Finding it strange, he asked, "Why have Yuan Su and Kong Yuan not appeared after 3 days?" Bai giggled and said, "Who knows? Those two are too evil. They caused elder brother Shao Chun to accompany me for 3 days, not even having time to go to the 9 layers of purgatory." For the past 3 days, Shao Chun had been with Bai. He worried that Bai would not be safe alone. In the past 3 days, Shao Chun could only put aside what he was doing and wait for Yuan Su and Kong Yuan to appear. However, this wait lasted for 3 days. This made Shao Chun somewhat anxious. "Elder brother Shao Chun, how about you bring me to the 9 layers of purgatory?" Bai put down her wine gourd, appearing very obedient. Her eyes filled with anticipation as she said, "According to legend, the 9 layers of purgatory was the underworld of the Immortal epic. It controlled the 6 paths of reincarnation. Now, the Immortal epic no longer exists, and the cycle of reincarnation is broken. It is a place that even the ghost race cultivators do not dare to enter. Bai will definitely be able to help elder brother Shao Chun." Chapter 966. Shao Chun could not help but regret telling Bai about going to the 9 layers of purgatory. He frowned and said, "Don't mention this. If the two of them still do not appear today, I will ask Bai Lang to look for them." "Ha ha, brother Shao, there is no need to send people to look for us. The two of us have actually been here for the past 3 days." Carefree laughter rang out. 2 cultivators wearing black cloaks sat at a table in a blind spot. The 2 removed their cloaks and arrived before Shao Chen's table. It was Yuan Su and Kong Yuan. Shao Chen raised his eyebrows as he looked at the black cloaks. He sent his spiritual sense over, but the image of the 2 cloaks did not appear in his mind. "Strange, I wonder what kind of cloaks these are. The 2 of them should have been relying on these cloaks to hide from my spiritual sense for the past 3 days. Brother Shao, you seem to be treating Shurchun like a child. Don't be in a rush to reject me," Yuan Su said with some dissatisfaction after greeting Shao Chun. After greeting Shao Chun, Yuan Su picked up the wine cup on the table and drained it in one go. Shao Chun felt slightly confused, not understanding what Yuan Su meant. Kong Yuan revealed a bitter smile. "You might not know this, but for the sake of catching up to you, Shurchun suffered a lot of injuries and suffered a lot. She experienced more life and death situations than Yuan Su and I did." "Elder brother Shao Chun, stop. They're just spouting nonsense. Don't take it seriously." Bai quickly waved his hand, revealing an anxious expression. Yuan Su said coldly, "Why not? Is it really that easy to be the Fox King's adopted daughter? The spirit fox race has thousands of competitors. In order to stand out from the rest, one has to face a lot of killing and battles. Any mistake could result in a life and death separation. Even after becoming the Fox King's adopted daughter, she still cannot rest easy. She still has to fight for the position of Fiend King for the Spirit Fox race. The blood and sweat she put in is 1,000 times more than before. All this is just to catch up to a certain person. She puts in so much effort that she can keep up with a certain person. Every time she hears news of a certain person, she rejoices for a long time. Every time she hears that a certain person offended an enemy, she clenches her teeth and redoubles her efforts in cultivation. Maybe someone thinks that the adopted daughter of the Fox King is the same as a princess, receiving the respect of the world and enjoying boundless fortune. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world, especially when the strength of our demon race is declining year after year. Kong Yuan's face sank. He could tell that Yuan Su's emotions were somewhat unstable. He said sullenly, Yuan Su, Shi Chun told you to stop talking. Did you not hear her? Yuan Su knew that he had made a slip of the tongue, so he continued drinking and did not say anything else. A smile appeared on Bai's face. Hee, elder brother Xiao Chun, it is not as exaggerated and scary as elder brother Yuan Su made it out to be. Adoptive father treats Bai very well. Bai did everything willingly. Xiao Chen's heart was in turmoil, unable to speak for a long time. Who would have thought that back in the lower realm? After so many years, she had been working hard to remember what her parents said when they took her away. Bai said earnestly, even though I have the Fox King's will clone, it is useless. This time, I can really help elder brother Xiao Chun. I also want to meet elder sister Ao Jiao. I want to see the day when the lunar shadow saber is unsheathed again. When Xiao Chun saw the expression in Bai's eyes, some of the views that he had been firm in his heart for a long time started to waver. Xiao Chun said, let's not talk about this for now. Bai, come over for a while. I have something to say to you alone. Now, only Yuan Su and Kong Yuan remained at the table. The atmosphere turned somewhat silent. Kong Yuan drank a mouthful of wine and said, finding it strange, Yuan Su, others might not know, but don't you know the pressure of being a descendant of the Qing Emperor? Don't you know the danger that comes with admitting to it? Xiao Chun does not want to meet with Bai because he wants time to wear away Bai's reliance on him. He does not want his own danger to affect his family and friends. Why does everything sound so different when it comes from your mouth? You're not usually this kind of person. Yuan Su revealed a warm smile on his handsome and charming face. There was no longer any hatred or dissatisfaction from earlier. Blockhead, do you think that with Bai's persistence, time can wear away her reliance on Xiao Chun? Of course not. Isn't that so? Rather than that, we might as well let Xiao Chun truly accept Bai and give Bai status. When Kong Yuan heard that, he could not help but laugh. He did not know if he was laughing at himself or at Yuan Su. How pitiful. The most handsome man of the fiend race has to be a matchmaker. After a while, Xiao Chun and Bai returned. When they saw the smile on Bai's face, they felt both disappointed and happy. Kong Yuan muttered to himself, wondering if Yuan Su's provocation worked or not. The four discussed for a while and decided to barge into the 9 layers of purgatory together. Then, they all left to make their various preparations for entering the 9 layers of purgatory. The next day, when the four gathered again, they set off on their journey to the 9 layers of purgatory. The 9 layers of purgatory was one of the forbidden lands that everyone in the Kunlun continent knew about. In terms of fame, it was even greater than the primal chaos domain's heavenly ruin wasteland. It rivaled the savage battlefield, perhaps even surpassed it. Before the 6 paths of reincarnation were broken during the Immortal epoch, this place had been the netherworld, in charge of the cycle of reincarnation for all living beings. Rumor said that during that era, if one did not become an immortal, one would enter the cycle of reincarnation forever. Based on good and evil, one would be chosen to reincarnate. Those who were evil would be sent to the path of beasts. Those who were evil and ferocious would remain in hell forever, enduring all kinds of torture and torture. They would not even be beasts. Those who were good would be reincarnated as humans in their next life, becoming rich and noble, rising to the clouds. There were even people with great virtue who could enter the heavenly realm. They were born as innate life forms, nurtured by the heavens and the earth. They were known as heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. However, the immortal Tao was broken, and the martial luck flourished. Reincarnation no longer existed, and hell no longer existed. Only the 9 layers of purgatory remained. The truth of the past had already become a legend, and the legend had become a myth. In the current era, reincarnation no longer existed. There were no immortals in the world. Everyone could live only one life. No one believed in virtue anymore. 7 days later, Xiao Chun used the freedom wings to carry the four to a tall mountain in the ghost domain. This mountain was known as Mount Tai. The middle of the mountain already reached the clouds, so it was impossible to tell how tall it was. The mountain covered an area of 50 kilometers, looking boundlessly majestic. The surroundings of the mountain were very gloomy. Occasionally, one could see wandering spirits and wild ghosts wandering around. The four did not find this strange. The ghost domain lacked everything but wandering spirits and wild ghosts. They were already used to it. Although reincarnation no longer existed, after a person died, their soul still existed. A soul that lost its physical body would not exist for long in the world. Even someone as strong as Emperor Wu, who shone with dazzling light and could pluck the stars and moon from the sky, could not exist for long. Similarly, a soul would not exist for long. It would separate and naturally scatter. However, the ghost race had secret techniques that could capture the soul. After a person died, they refined the soul into all sorts of spirits, enslaving and controlling them. This made one unable to rest in peace after death, inspiring fear and loathing. It was just like the corpse race, stealing corpses and digging graves. If not for their own strength, they would have been destroyed thousands of times already. At the foot of the mountain was a turbid river that flowed from the summit to the ground. This river was the famous underworld river. It was also known as the Death River, the Yellow Springs River, or the River of Helplessness. However, it was no longer complete. The cycle of reincarnation shattered, and the source of this river, the profound river in the heavenly realm, broke into many pieces. Naturally, the underworld river broke into many pieces as well. It was not good to lose all sorts of strange magic skills. If one followed this river, one would reach the 9 layers of purgatory. Several cultivators gathered at the riverbank. Aside from the ghost race cultivators, there were many cultivators of the other races. Several black ships floated in the river. Kong Yuan looked up at the tall mountain and said, "Is this the legendary Mount Tai? I heard that if one follows the river, one can reach the summit. There is a southern heavenly gate there. After passing the southern heavenly gate, one will reach the immortal world." Bai nodded and said, "I once heard adoptive father say that there is indeed a gate at the summit. The world behind the gate is indeed the immortal world. However, it is already a shattered world. Even a sovereign martial emperor would not be able to survive there for long." Yuan Su glanced at Xiao Chun and said meaningfully, "This is just a guess. As for what exactly it is, only those who have entered know. Unfortunately, since ancient times, it seems like only the Qing emperor walked out of there." Xiao Chun did not care. He smiled and said, "Don't look at me. The Xiao clan does not have any ancient records of what the Qing emperor saw in there." Kong Yuan said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's go to the ferry. After the sky turns dark, that group of ghost race cultivators will no longer receive guests." Although the 9 layers of purgatory was not a forbidden land, aside from the death chi and evil spirits that the ghost race liked, most of the inattributed flames in the world were born in the 9 layers of purgatory. Experts of the various races would often go to the 9 layers of purgatory to seek inattributed flames. Aside from inattributed flames, there were also several cold-attributed natural treasures that could only be found in the 9 layers of purgatory. Although the forbidden land was dangerous, there were always bold and skilled people who dared to seek riches in the midst of danger. Perhaps some cultivators came purely for experiential training, to see if they could comprehend something between life and death. If they were not careful and managed to dig up an immortal epic treasure, they would have been lucky. The 4 moved quickly. After a while, they arrived at the ferry. There was a complicated flow of people at the ferry. Initially, Xiao Chun did not pay much attention to them. However, when he glanced around, he discovered a group of people wearing clothes that looked familiar. After thinking carefully, he recalled that they were the Medicine God Valley's people. Mr. Qin, who died at Xiao Chen's hands, and the 2 Medicine God Valley cultivators who sought trouble for him in Leisure Feather City all wore similar clothes. Xiao Chun frowned slightly. He had not expected to run into the Medicine God Valley's people here. Now that he had killed their Grandmaster-level alchemist, he would not be able to get away with it. The Medicine God Valley's alchemists were not strong. However, they had strong connections. Look at that group. The strongest ones were not from the Medicine God Valley. With one look, it was clear that they had invited help. One of them seemed to be a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. That person should be helping the Medicine God Valley's people collect the inattributed flames. According to the alchemy of the martial epic, several medicinal pills required different flames to refine. Fortunately, this group of people had already boarded the ferry. The ferry sailed through the turbid yellow water, heading for the underworld land ahead. Kong Yuan stepped forward and called for a ferry. After paying a large number of astral coins, the ferryman, wearing a conical bamboo hat, happily set sail. The turbid yellow water gave off an unpleasant smell. Occasionally, one could see changing ghostly faces in the river, looking deep and terrifying. Chapter 9:67. Contrary to Xiao Qin's expectations, Bai, who sat beside him, did not show any fear at all, remaining as calm as usual. Xiao Qin felt a pang in his heart. He could not help grabbing Bai's hand tightly. He wondered what this girl had experienced in the past few years. Bai giggled and let Xiao Qin hold her hand, gently leaning on his shoulder. Although the underworld river had lost its various miraculous magic skills, its nature still remained. If one fell into it, one would immediately be corrupted and corroded. No secret treasure in the world could protect one. The river also contained a demonic nature. One could not fly on it. Otherwise, one might fall into it for no reason. Only the specter ship forged by the ghost race could travel on it. This resulted in the fact that the ghost race controlled the entrance to the 9 layers of purgatory. Anyone who went there would have to pay a large amount of black astral coins. The specter ship quickly left the surface. The bow of the ship turned completely dark. The air was filled with flickering, phosphorescent lights, all of which were wandering spirits. When Xiao Qin looked up, he saw many skulls piled up on stone pillars. As the ship traveled on the water, it passed through the bodies of these wandering spirits, giving off an intense life force. The moment the ship touched a wandering spirit, it immediately scattered it into nothing. During the Immortal epoch, this land of the Netherworld had been divided into the Netherworld and the Netherworld. Once one crossed this place, one would be in the Netherworld. However, if one could not cross this place, one would be trapped here, unable to return to the world of the living or reincarnate, drifting here forever. Suddenly, Xiao Qin felt that something was wrong. The specter ship stopped moving and stopped in the river. Kong Yuan's expression changed slightly. He gestured to Yuan Su and asked the boatman in a thick cloak, "Why are you stopping? We have not reached the 9 layers of purgatory yet. We can't reach it yet. We will just retire here. Then we will turn into wandering spirits and drift for the rest of our lives." The boatman sat at the bow and did not turn his head back. Only a hoarse voice came from within. Now, the expressions of Bai and the other two changed. They all circulated their law energy, preparing to snatch the ship at any time. Xiao Qin remained calm and said in a deep voice, "You're trying to extort money, right? I've long heard that some black-hearted boatmen will sail their boats to the Netherworld, a place where there is no way out or out, and take the opportunity to extort money." He extorting money? Young Master Xiao. Young Master Xiao, you're the ancestor of this aspect. A tender laugh was heard, and the cloak on the boatman's body exploded, revealing a delicate figure in a white dress. The woman turned around and smiled. It was the ghost race's Qing Cheng. Xiao Qin's expression didn't change, but he cursed in his heart. Why did he run into this woman here? A cocky smile appeared on Qing Cheng's breathtakingly beautiful face. Jiang Changzi told me that the few of you were coming to the ghost domain. I thought it was fake news. Unexpectedly, you really dared to come. Aren't you very capable? Let's see how you're going to resolve this situation today. You're going to toy with me in the palm of your hand. Ha! Qing Cheng patted the ship with her palm, and countless small holes immediately appeared at the bottom of the ship. Then, the specter ship slowly sank. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan instantly attacked, charging at this woman. However, Qing Cheng merely smiled and floated up gently. 8 spirits carrying a palanquin flew out. Then, Qing Cheng pulled open the curtains. Qing Cheng pulled open the curtains and sat down. Then, she looked at the slowly sinking specter ship through the window. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan quickly retreated. Ching Chung had the 8 ghost palanquin. If she dared to fly on it, they would not dare to cross the underworld river. That way, they would die even faster. Gurgle, gurgle. The river bubbled as the specter ship continued to sink. When the ship completely sank, it would be the end of everyone. Aside from Emperor Wu's indestructible golden body, no matter how strong one's physical body was, one would not be able to survive in the Yellow Springs water. Even Xiao Chun was no exception. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan's expressions turned grave. What should we do? At this crucial moment, everyone looked at Xiao Chun at the same time. I said calmly, I'll activate Adoptive Fathers Will Clone. Given the strength of Adoptive Fathers Will Clone, it should be able to escort us to the 9 layers of purgatory. Naturally, the Dark World could not trap the Fox Kings Will Clone. However, what would they do when they returned? Furthermore, the Will Clone was something that the Fox King had given to Bai to protect his life. How could Xiao Chun use it at this moment? Hence, Xiao Chun rejected the idea without any explanation. The true solution lay with Ching Chung, who was in the 8 ghost palanquin. Xiao Chun's thoughts were very sharp. If this Ching Chung really wanted to kill them, she could have caused the specter ship to sink without anyone noticing, not even giving them a chance to use the Will Clone. She must be plotting something. As long as they did not obtain what they wanted, they would be safe. Hee. Young Master Xiao, you were born to toy with others. You did not expect such a day to come, right? I won't waste words with you. If you want to enter the 9 hells purgatory alive and come out alive, then return to me double the spirit vein and star coins you extorted last time. Indeed, Ching Chung, who was in the 8 ghost palanquin, felt that victory was within her grasp. After looking for a while, she made her request. She did not think that Xiao Chun had any room to bargain. I wonder if this supreme grade spirit vein is enough. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and pushed. A peak spirit vein in his universe ring turned into a dragon and flew towards Ching Chung. Top grade spirit vein. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan were startled. Xiao Chun was really willing to part with a peak spirit vein just like that. However, at this moment, preserving his life was more important. It was understandable that he was willing to part with a peak spirit vein. The expression of Ching Chung, who was in the palanquin, clearly changed. It was much more valuable than some king-grade secret treasures. Only king-grade sects and holy lands could casually take it out. To think that Xiao Chun's expression did not change as he took out a peak spirit vein. He was really bold. However, Ching Chung was a ghost race cultivator after all. Although a spirit vein was good, it was not very meaningful to her. A light flashed around the palanquin. A crack opened in the 8 ghost spirit locking defense formation, allowing the spirit vein to flow in. Then it quickly mended. A brilliant light flashed in Xiao Chun's eyes. He saw all this, but his expression did not change. A peak spirit vein is very valuable. However, Xiao Chun, you should know what I truly want. Give it to me. Not only will I ensure that you'll be unobstructed on this trip, but I can also send people to help you, Ching Chung said slowly, not in a rush to collect the spirit vein. Naturally, she was referring to the Death Throne. The rumbling sounds intensified. Xiao Chun and the other 3 were already hovering in the air, doing their best to reduce the weight of the specter ship. The rumbling grew louder. Xiao Chun and the other 3 were already hovering in the air, doing their best to reduce the weight of the specter ship. However, they still could not stop the ship from sinking. The situation was critical. They needed to make a decision. Xiao Chun waved his hand to stop Bai, who wanted to activate the Fox Kings Will Clone. Then, he thrust out the cycle banner. Dense death chi mixed with starlight spread throughout the entire banner pole. I refined the Death Throne, Massacre Throne, and Ruin Throne into this astral banner. If you want them, then take them. When the calm Ching Chung saw the cycle astral banner slowly fly over, her heart could not help but pound wildly. 3 thrones. Xiao Chun actually collected 3 thrones. Very well. After I verify that there is no mistake, I will bring you and your friends out of this underworld land. Ching Chung stretched out her hand, and the 8 ghost spirit locking defense formation on the 8 ghost palanquin opened a crack. Then, she tried to put the cycle banner in. However, just at this moment, something strange happened. A pair of pure white wings unfurled behind Xiao Chun. He took a step forward, and his body turned into a beam of spiritual light. In the next moment, he arrived before Qing Cheng in the palanquin. All this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly, not giving Qing Cheng any chance to react. Ew. Qing Cheng's expression changed drastically as she quickly retreated. However, how could Xiao Chun dodge so easily after storing up power for this attack? Xiao Chun stretched out a finger and tapped Qing Cheng's forehead. A strong saber qi immediately flowed into Qing Cheng's meridians. A cold qi assaulted Qing Cheng, and sharp saber qi circled around all the vital points in her body continuously. As long as Xiao Chun willed it, he could immediately kill Qing Cheng. Xiao Chun put away the freedom wings on his back and waved his hand. He happened to catch the cycle banner, which had arrived a step too late, in his palm. He slowly withdrew his hand, and a crystalline flower appeared on Qing Cheng's forehead. Qing Cheng looked around, not daring to act rashly. Xiao Chun looked around and sighed to himself. This palanquin was much larger than he expected. This was especially so when there was a soft white bed in the back. Xiao Chun casually put away the spirit vein floating in the air. Then he sat on the soft bed and smiled gently. Miss Qing Cheng, you are really enjoying yourself. This palanquin is indeed comfortable. Qing Cheng's back faced Xiao Chun. She felt hatred and regret in her heart. She blamed herself for being too greedy. She wanted to obtain the death throne and drown this fellow. If she had just drowned this fellow, such a thing would not have happened. Now, this fellow would be able to counter her. When Qing Cheng heard Xiao Chen's words, she scolded, "Bastard, if you have the guts, then kill this lady. The Spectre ship will sink soon. None of your friends will survive. The wings on your back should have some restrictions in this dark underworld land, right? Otherwise, you would have fled with your friends long ago." Flying was not allowed in the underworld river. Naturally, Xiao Chun did not dare to take the risk. The Freedom Wings used the power of space. However, as Qing Cheng said, there were indeed great restrictions here. The dark underworld was dark. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could not see beyond a kilometer. When a magic skill, so close yet worlds apart, appeared before him, everything beyond a kilometer was dark. He did not dare to use it at all. Seeing that Xiao Chun did not say anything, Qing Cheng felt reassured. Given Xiao Chen's character, he would absolutely not abandon his friends. She still had the capital to negotiate with him. What's wrong? I guess correctly. The Spectre ship can last for at most 10 minutes. Xiao Chun, after all your scheming, you still failed at the last step. If you have the guts, then kill me immediately. The life and death of your friends will depend on a single thought. Xiao Chun smiled gently, unconcerned. Then, he flicked his finger, and Qing Cheng felt her body turn cold. Qing Cheng's white dress slid off, revealing her jade-white back. Only a red doo-doo and underwear remained. Qing Cheng's face, which had just regained some confidence, now flushed red. She felt extremely bashful as she scolded, "Xiao Chun, you shameless, lecherous, despicable person." Xiao Chun smiled softly and lay down on the large bed. Then, he smiled nonchalantly and said, "This bed is really extraordinarily big. It is too much of a waste to sleep on one person. I feel that I should sleep on one more person in the future." Qing Cheng raged in her heart. She wished that she could immediately chop Xiao Chun in half. However, the crystalline flower on her forehead prevented her from moving at all. She regretted as much as she could. She should not have offended this fellow at all. Chapter 968. Despicable, despicable, shameless. Qing Cheng said through clenched teeth, her voice trembling somewhat. Xiao Chun flicked his finger again, and Qing Cheng's doo-doo instantly slipped off, scaring her into silence. Xiao Chun did not know what the scenery in front was like, nor was he in any mood to look. He said coldly, "Not going to speak anymore? Very well, I'll speak. I'll only ask you one thing. Will you still use your friends to threaten me?" Most of the Spectre ship had already sunk. When Bai and the other two saw Xiao Chun charge into the 8 ghost palanquin, joy appeared on their faces. However, the 8 ghost palanquin did not move for a long time. The Spectre ship sank deeper and deeper. It looked like it would sink completely soon. Their expressions turned grave again. Bai said sullenly, "Elder brother Xiao Chun, something must have happened. There is no more time to wait. I'm going to activate my will clone." Yuan Su waved his hand to stop him. "Wait a little longer. Xiao Chun is not someone who would casually make a move just because he is confident. However, if we continue waiting, we will sink completely." Before Bai could finish speaking, a white light flashed in front. The 8 ghost palanquin swallowed up the 3 of them while the Spectre ship remained silent. The 3 of them landed on the palanquin. Xiao Chun and Qing Cheng stood side by side. Qing Cheng had already put on some clothes. Her pretty face was filled with frustration. There was an ice flower mark on her forehead, looking exceptionally eye-catching. Xiao Chun stood upright with a smile on his face. His expression was calm, without any fluctuations. Confusion filled Kong Yuan's face. He could not understand what was going on. Qing Cheng, who hated Xiao Chun to the bone earlier, was now standing together with Xiao Chun for no reason. "What's going on? This is—" Xiao Chun smiled and said, "It's nothing. Miss Qing Cheng was just joking with everyone earlier. This palanquin has been temporarily given to us. Furthermore, it will travel with us." "Is that true?" Naturally, the 3 did not believe it. Even Bai looked at Qing Cheng suspiciously, feeling that something was wrong. Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he glanced at Qing Cheng. Qing Cheng smiled embarrassedly and said, "Oh, this young lady has never been a bandit before. When I saw my old friend Xiao Chun, I could not help but crack a joke. Haha, please don't mind me." Regardless of whether he believed it or not, the 8 ghost palanquin moved freely under Xiao Chen's control, flying toward the other side of the netherworld. Along the way, Zhang Xian passed through thousands upon thousands of wandering souls as if there was no one there. Inside the palanquin, Kong Yuan looked at the scene flashing by outside the window and clicked his tongue in wonder. The 8 ghost palanquin truly lives up to its reputation. It can even fly above the Netherworld River. As expected of a secret treasure refined by the Ghost Empress, Shisun, Yuan Su thought of something and asked, "I heard that the Ghost Empress, Shisun's strength has soared in recent years. She has been trying to compete with the Mountain Monarch for the position of the Ghost Domain's Lord. I wonder if they have fought." The Mountain Monarch was the Lord of the Ghost Domain, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. However, most people referred to him as the Mountain Monarch. Only the Ghost race liked to use his full title. Qing Cheng glanced at Yuan Su and said in surprise, "This by face of yours seems to know a lot. However, whether they fought or not, what does that have to do with you? Why are you asking so much?" The other party was Xiao Chen's friend, so Yuan Su could not lose his temper. He could only endure the rage burning on his fair face. This caused Kong Yuan, who was at the side, to laugh involuntarily. Suddenly, when Qing Cheng saw Xiao Chun, she frowned slightly. Then, she smiled apologetically and said, Sorry. This young lady usually speaks like this. Young Master Yuan, please don't blame me. Master's strength has indeed soared greatly. However, there is still a gap between him and the Ghost Emperor. Why would I invite trouble by fighting with him?" Xiao Chun, who had been controlling the 8 ghost palanquin, suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. Earlier, he seemed to have overtaken the Medicine God Valley Spectre ship. On the Underworld River in the Medicine God Valley's rented Spectre ship, this group of people stood at the bow of the ship. 6 people from the Medicine God Valley had come. One of them was an alchemist, and the others were cultivators that the Medicine God Valley nurture themselves. They were all Grandmaster-level martial sages. As for the other 3 people who were not from the Medicine God Valley, their cultivations were even more incredible. They were only a step away from great Grandmaster-level martial sages. After several hundred years of cultivation, they could advance at any time. The person leading this group was a bona fide great Grandmaster-level martial sage. His name was Gongsun Hualong. Clearly, the group of 9 centered around the alchemist. This person's name was Wei Tao, and people called him Mr. Wei. He was one of the 3 Grandmaster-level alchemists of the Medicine God Valley. His alchemy ability and strength were even higher than Mr. Qin's. As Mr. Wei watched the 8 ghost palanquin fly over his head, a greedy look flashed in his eyes. 8 ghost palanquin. If we could use this palanquin, our chances of collecting the icy snow flame would increase by 50%. Unfortunately, everyone knew what he meant even without saying. The 8 ghost palanquin was made by the Ghost Empress Shi-sun. In the ghost domain, no one would dare to offend the Ghost Empress Shi-sun by targeting the 8 ghost palanquin. Even after leaving the ghost domain, everyone would have to give the 8 ghost palanquin some face. Someone said, "Mr. Wei, there is no need to worry. With Senior Gongsun here, collecting the icy snow flame will be a piece of cake." Gongsun Hualong, who had been resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and said in a deep voice, "It will not be that easy. The icy snow flame is one of the top 5 inattributed flames. It was born at the Last Breath Lake. I wonder what kind of powerful ghost is guarding it." Mr. Wei smiled and said, "Mr. Gongsun, don't be too pessimistic. Before this old man came here, I already found a soul-slaying mirror. I can use it to kill spirits and ghosts." Soul-slaying mirror? Gongsun Hualong's expression froze for a while. Then, he said, "It should be a replica. If it is the real deal, then we will have a 100% chance of success." Mr. Wei nodded. "Although it is a replica, it is still of a high grade. As long as we are careful, there should be no problem." The 8 ghost palanquin flew for an hour, passing through a foggy area. The scene before them changed drastically, and they could no longer see the underworld river. After flying for another hour, Xiao Chen noticed that he had exhausted too much magic energy. So he put away the 8 ghost palanquin and formally entered the 9 layers of purgatory. The sky was boundlessly dark. A broken black sun hung in the distant horizon, not giving off any heat. Spatial tiers could be seen everywhere. It seemed like there was a small world in them, showing all sorts of terrifying scenes. The ground was covered in soft black sand. The black desert stretched as far as the eye could see. At the limits of Xiao Chen's vision, there were some ancient palaces indistinctly visible like illusions. This place was silent, so quiet that it was scary. As a member of the ghost race, Qing Cheng was no stranger to this 9 layers of purgatory. She pointed to the desert below her and said, "This is the mute desert. During the Immortal epoch, this was the first layer of hell, the tongue-pulling hell. It specialized in punishing those who were glib-tongued, slanderous, sowing dissension, and deceiving. There is an immortal pair of scissors known as the Flood Dragon Scissors. They stretched the tongues of these talkative people for 50 kilometers. Depending on their crimes, they cut them into as many pieces as they wanted. Every cut would cause them to feel so much pain that they wished they were dead. For the more serious crimes, they had to be cut into millions of pieces. It would take at least 100 years before they could be reincarnated. So, don't speak too much here." The mute ghost's underground hate hearing people speak the most. Qing Cheng appeared serious as she explained the various aspects of the mute desert in detail. When the group heard this, their hair stood on end, and their expressions changed. Xiao Chen showed a blank expression, not feeling anything. This was the martial epoch. The 6 paths of reincarnation had already shattered long ago. The ghosts and deities of hell no longer existed. No matter how horrifying hell was, it had nothing to do with them. You know how to get to the Yellow Springs Road, right? Ying Xiong had helped Xiao Chun ask around. As long as he found the Yellow Springs Road, he would be able to find the Permitha flowers and the 3 Life Stone. The Permitha flowers bloomed on both sides of the Yellow Springs Road. They were fiery red everywhere, making them very easy to find. As for the 3 Life Stone, it was at the end of the Yellow Springs Road, beside the Bridge of Helplessness. As for where the soul-returning grass was, Xiao Chun did not know. Originally, he had intended to ask the other ghost race cultivators. Now that Qing Cheng was here and the other party agreed to help, it would not be a problem. When Qing Cheng heard the words Yellow Springs Road, her expression changed slightly. She pulled Xiao Chun to the side and said sullenly, Yellow Springs Road. You actually want to go to the Yellow Springs Road? Didn't you say that you were only looking for the soul-returning grass? Xiao Chun said calmly, I did not say that I was only looking for the soul-returning grass. I only asked you how to find the soul-returning grass. Qing Chung said hatefully, if the 18 layers of hell were still around, you would have to spend 100 years in the hell of tongue pulling. You would not dare to speak in your next life. I definitely will not go to the Yellow Springs Road. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Xiao Qin smiled faintly and said, Liar, the one who should go to hell is you. You agreed to come with me and help me obtain what I want. That was why I decided to let you off and lend you the cycle banner for 3 months. You have to go to the Yellow Springs Road, even if you don't want to. Before Qing Chung could reply, Xiao Qin turned and left. Qing Chung clenched her teeth in hatred. However, when she touched the cold flower mark on her forehead, she could not do anything about it. Elder brother Xiao Chun, what's wrong with your friend? Is she not going to help us anymore? Bai asked worriedly as she looked into the distance at Qing Chung, who was kicking the sand continuously. Kong Yuan also looked over curiously. If they had Qing Cheng's help, the danger of this trip would be significantly reduced. Yuan Su frowned and said, This woman is very strange. Furthermore, she is the Ghost Empress disciple. I don't think she is reliable. We should go by ourselves. Bai, you look very fair and clean, but you have a bad habit of speaking ill of people behind their backs. When have I ever said anything bad about you? A cold wind blew, and Qing Chung silently arrived beside Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun was not surprised that Qing Chung had returned. After he consoled Yuan Su, he said, How do we get to the Yellow Springs Road? Tell everyone. Originally, after leaving the underworld and passing the gates of hell, the Yellow Springs Road is the Yellow Springs Road. Unfortunately, the 6 paths of reincarnation shattered, and the entire abyssal underworld fell into chaos. Who knows how many spaces it shattered into? The gates of hell also moved to another location, to the center of the 8th layer, Last Breath Lake. Last Breath Lake. There is a saying that when one breathed one's last breath, one would die without a doubt. That was one of the few dangerous places in the 9 layers of purgatory. No wonder Qing Chung was unwilling to go. Boom! Just at this moment, a pitch-black flood dragon spirit suddenly flew out from the distance. Black sand fell from the sky as it reared its head back and roared ferociously. It seemed like someone was fighting with it. The silence of the mute desert was immediately broken. The entire desert suddenly started moving, and countless spirits leaped out. Chapter 969. Qing Cheng's expression did not change. She summoned out the black and white soul reapers with one hand. The moment the black and white soul reapers appeared, the spirits around Xiao Chun and the others all retreated in fear. Our luck is pretty good. We just arrived at the 1st layer of purgatory, and we already ran into someone who wanted to subdue this flood dragon scissors. We will probably be delayed for a while, Qing Chung said casually, not finding this strange. However, Xiao Chun started thinking. The people from the Medicine God Valley should have already left the underworld. If they delayed for too long, it would be problematic if they ran into them. With one glance, Xiao Chun could tell that the people from the Medicine God Valley were elites. Furthermore, they even had a great Grandmaster-level martial sage leading them. Not to mention the fact that they were heading to the Yellow Springs Road now, which was not a good time to start a pointless battle. Even if they ran into each other, they would have to run as far away as possible. Roar! 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 The black desert looked like clouds hanging upside down in the sky. The pitch-black flood dragon spirit spat out demonic flames, baring its fangs and claws as it started a startling battle with that person. Its roar shook the surroundings. The dragon roar did not stop, reaching Xiao Chen's ears. He could not help but look over. Why were their dragon roars overlapping? Xiao Chen did not find it strange that the flood dragon spirit could roar. The person fighting the flood dragon seemed to be able to roar as well. This piqued Xiao Chen's curiosity. Furthermore, Xiao Chun found the dragon roar of that person somewhat familiar. However, he was too far away, and his spiritual sense could only extend 1 kilometer, so he could not figure it out. The spirits that flew out of the ground obeyed the flood dragon's ferocious roar and leaped towards it. Kong Yuan felt suspicious and asked, "Is this flood dragon really formed by that immortal scissors?" Originally, when Qing Cheng said that this was the tongue-pulling hell and that there were immortal scissors, Kong Yuan thought it was a joke. Now that he saw the might of this flood dragon, it seemed like she was telling the truth. Naturally, it is real. However, it is no longer a treasure. After the immortal Tao died, its divine nature and immortal might no longer exist. It is now just an ordinary treasure. Once, Emperor Wu collected a flood dragon out of curiosity. Then, he casually gave it to his disciple. Now, only some great Grandmaster-level martial sages have designs on this flood dragon. Even the blue-robed emperor does not care about it. Seeing that Kong Yuan did not believe her, Qing Chen casually explained. Xiao Chen muttered to himself, "Let's go. We can't keep waiting here. If it's just a great grandmaster, we can just charge through." After Xiao Chen spoke, he took the lead. Bai and Yuan Su followed closely behind. Qing Cheng stomped her feet and had no choice but to follow as well. None of them were slow, moving as fast as lightning. In less than the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the battle between the Black Flood Dragon and the human appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. The one fighting the Black Flood Dragon was a burly middle-aged Ghost Clan martial artist. As he raised his hands and feet, 10 heaven dragons faintly appeared behind him. When he punched out, there was an earth-shattering sound, causing the desert to surge into the sky like waves. The Black Flood Dragon, on the other hand, was even more brutal. Vicious energy surged into the sky as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring in rage. Xiao Chen finally understood why the sound of that Ghost Clan martial artist's punches sounded so familiar. Like Xiao Chen, the other party's physical strength reached 5,000 tons of force, forming dragon energy. However, this person's cultivation was much higher than Xiao Chen's, already reaching 10 dragon force. A casual punch from this person contained more than 50 million tons of force. This was a great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the physical body. A rather horrifying feat. Hundreds of figures moved around the periphery of the battlefield, blocking the spirits flying over, preventing them from interfering with the ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage. Although these spirits were not strong, barely equal to inferior grade martial sages, there were too many of them. If they all charged over at once, even a great Grandmaster-level martial sage would find it somewhat problematic. Whoosh! 7 or 8 figures descended with strong winds, blocking Xiao Chen's path. Stop! The 2 leaders had pale skin and unconcealable death chi. The other 5 were all solid spirits. Xiao Chen's eyelids twitched. These spirits were of high ranks. Furthermore, there were 5 of them. These people had significant backgrounds among the noble clans. My master's battle with this evil flood dragon has reached a critical moment. There is no room for anything unexpected to happen. Would you all please delay for a while? The yellow-clad person on the right said. Xiao Chen took a look. The other party's battle had indeed reached a critical moment. The flood dragon would not be able to hold on for much longer. If they rushed over, it would be hard to avoid these people's suspicions. Never mind, I can only wait for a while. Xiao Chen did not care about the 2 people before him. However, the ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage who could casually send out 10 dragon force was not someone to be trifled with. Suddenly, the black-clad cultivator on the left looked at Qing Cheng. A murderous intent immediately filled his eyes. Attack! These people were sent by the Ghost Emperor's disciple to cause trouble. Kassier. However, right after that black-clad cultivator spoke, a saber hum rang out. Xiao Chen moved even faster. The instant that black-clad cultivator's expression changed, he attacked at lightning speed. A bright moonlight shot out from his fingertip. This was the flawless bright moon of the flawless saber Dao. The saber light flashed, and the black-clad cultivator turned into a headless corpse. Bai, Yuan Su, and the other 2 quickly made their moves. When they worked together, they dealt with the other yellow-clad cultivator in an instant. Since their masters were already dead, the 5 strong spirits behind them naturally could not exist for long. They turned into motes of light and disappeared. Ching Chung had an innocent expression as she muttered, "These are the people of the Ghost Monarch's faction. I already said to delay for a while before coming. However, you did not listen. You can't blame me for this." Xiao Chun looked around and happened to meet the gaze of the ghost race cultivator in the air. He felt an extremely dense, killing intent. Xiao Chun's expression did not change as he said calmly, "Attack. Eliminate all the people in the surroundings." Xiao Chun had never been an indecisive person. Since they already shed all pretense of cordiality, there was no need to explain anything. If one wanted to live, it was better to save oneself than to beg others. Along the way, Xiao Chun had already become the backbone of the group. Without saying anything else, Bai and the other two split up and started to eliminate the ghost race cultivators, helping to block the spirits. Ching Chung was slightly stunned. She had not expected Xiao Chun to be so decisive. He did not waste any time at all, even if he was about to face the rage of a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. She felt a chill in her heart for some reason. Making an enemy out of such a person was truly scary. Then, Ching Chung glanced at the ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage fighting the evil flood dragon. A smile appeared on her face as she said, "Martial Uncle Mo, sorry." Ching Chung really did not do it on purpose. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan were outstanding talents taught by sovereign martial emperors. The Fox King had high hopes for Bai, a genius nurtured as the next Fiend King. Furthermore, there was Xiao Chun. Without a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, no one could stop such people. As the flood dragon roared ferociously, the spirits covered the sky and launched themselves at the ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage. The pressure on the flood dragon immediately lessened. The ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage showed a ferocious expression. His skin split open and blood flowed out. Every time he punched, 15 heaven dragons roared ferociously. This was a startling 15 strands of heaven dragon force. Junior, quickly stop. Otherwise, this 9 layers of purgatory will be your burial ground. The thunderous voice reverberated in the surroundings, containing a boundless killing intent. Xiao Chun ignored the voice. He was not a fool. If he really stopped, there would be no chance of survival. Xiao Chun could only let the spirits completely destroy this person and delay him. Only then would everyone have a chance of survival. Otherwise, no one here could receive more than 10 moves from a great Grandmaster-level martial sage that could erupt out with 15 strands of heaven dragon force. After about 7 minutes, the remaining ghost race cultivators either fled or died. All the openings opened up. The overwhelming number of spirits was like a sea drowning the ghost race great Grandmaster-level martial sage. The evil flood dragon roared happily and swung its tail. It quickly broke free and circled around in the air before burrowing into the ground. The 5 gathered together, all of them more or less injured. Xiao Chun rejoiced. Fortunately, he brought Bai and the other 2. Otherwise, he would not have been able to deal with such a situation alone. "Elder brother Xiao Chun, can we go now?" Bai asked as he put away the snow feather sword. The others also looked over, waiting for his answer. Xiao Chun's expression changed as he glanced at the black flood dragon descending to the ground. He said, "Ching Chung, bring them away first. I'll follow later." The expressions of the others changed slightly. Ching Chung exclaimed in shock, "You can't be thinking of targeting this black flood dragon spirit, right? No matter how weak the black flood dragon is, it is still as strong as a great Grandmaster-level martial sage." Xiao Chun said calmly, "Don't worry. I'm confident. This black flood dragon spirit is severely injured. This is the best opportunity." Even though Xiao Chun said that, no one knew how strong the black flood dragon spirit's final counterattack would be. No one knew what would happen to the ghost race old man, who was surrounded by the sea-like spirits. If anything went wrong, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. "Ching Chung, do as I say. I have the freedom wings. It will be easy for me to catch up to you." A pair of wings unfurled on Xiao Chun's back. He shouted, and his aura spread out. His long hair fluttered, and his figure became like a bright saber light. With one step, he arrived where the black flood dragon spirit landed. "Let's go." Ching Chang did not say anything more. She led Yuan Su and the others to the next layer of purgatory. When the evil flood dragon spirit saw that someone dared to block it, it roared ferociously. The sound waves hurt Xiao Chen's eardrums. From top to bottom, the dragon might was terrifyingly dense. If a low-ranked cultivator were here, just the dragon might alone would be enough to crush them into dust. Naturally, Xiao Chun did not fear the dragon might. In the process of visualizing the Shao clan's ancestors subduing dragons with his bare hand for the dragon's subduing slash, Xiao Chun had already gained a deep comprehension of the words dragon subduing. Xiao Chun had even creatively merged all 13 moves of the Shao clan's dragon subduing slash, forming the flawless blue dragon and the dragon subduing profound slash. Just at small perfection, Xiao Chun could easily kill a Grandmaster level martial sage. If it reached great perfection, it would be even more incredible. With the heart of subduing dragons, Xiao Chun did not fear the dragon might. The one that should fear was the evil flood dragon spirit. Xiao Chun stomped on the ground with both of his feet. One after another, azure dragons floated around his body. There was a total of 18 of them. Auspicious clouds covered every blue dragon, causing a strong wind to blow. Dragon might spread for 5 kilometers around. Roar! The blue dragons roared ferociously in unison. The layered dragon might instantly overwhelmed the dragon might of the flood dragon spirit. Chop! Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and waved his hand to the sky. The 18 azure dragon images turned into saber chi that reached the sky and the ground. Then, they chopped down at the descending evil flood dragon spirit. The saber chi flying over seemed to be able to split the sky in half. The 18 saber chi linked together. The moment the first saber chi chopped down, the second one followed. Chapter 970. Bang! 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 All the saber chi struck the flood dragon spirit at nearly the same time. Strands of black resentment spread out from the flood dragon spirit's body. The subduing dragon profound slash nearly scattered this ferocious spirit, causing it to wail miserably in the air. Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. Executing the subduing dragon profound slash so quickly exhausted him significantly. However, Xiao Chun rejoiced in his heart. It looked like he had made the right bet. The ghost race's great Grandmaster level martial sage had severely injured this flood dragon spirit and was now very weak. Otherwise, given that it was as strong as a great Grandmaster level martial sage, the subduing dragon profound slash would not have been able to inflict so much damage on it. The flood dragon spirit's eyes glowed red as it looked at Xiao Chun in despair. Then, it let out a sorrowful roar and turned into a beam of black light charging at him. Xiao Chen's heart sank as he quickly dodged. This was the other party's final counterattack before death. The final counterattack of a great Grandmaster level martial sage would not be something that Xiao Chun could imagine. However, he was still too late. That black light was so fast that it surpassed the speed at which Xiao Chun could think. Just as he thought of fleeing, the black light stabbed into his chest. The black light pierced into his chest, and blood gushed out like a fountain from the wound. Black lines spread out from the wound in all directions. When Xiao Chun looked carefully, he discovered that the black light was actually a pair of black scissors. They were 1/2 meter long and had black dragon markings carved on them, giving them a spiritual charm. A vast, sea-like resentment immediately spread throughout Xiao Chen's body and quickly reached his brain. The cries of agony were endless, echoing incessantly in his mind. Xiao Chun bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. His mind became much clearer. He endured the intense pain and grabbed the handle of the scissors. Then he pulled it out. Boundless black chi lingered around the bloody hole in Xiao Chen's chest. The evil flood dragon spirit's counterattack before death had pierced through him. If it had attacked at full speed, it would have torn his physical body to shreds. Fortunately, my firmament body tempering art has already reached consummation. As long as my heart is not shattered, I will be able to recover quickly. After vomiting another mouthful of blood, Xiao Chun started to size up the black scissors in his hand. According to Qing Chung, this was an immortal scissors from the Immortal epic. Unfortunately, the immortal Tao had been destroyed, hell had shattered, and reincarnation no longer existed. The immortal scissors had also lost its divine might, and was now just an ordinary item. Even the blue-robed emperor didn't think much of it. However, no matter how ordinary it was, it had lost its divine might. The materials used to make the immortal scissors were genuine and top-notch divine materials. The 10,000-year-old flame, crystal, and 10,000-year-old refined iron that Sidu Leihung needed were of great use to Xiao Qin's blue dragon body, nourishing art. When the wound on his chest healed, Xiao Chun could not care about anything else. He circulated the blue dragon body, nourishing art, and swallowed the remaining half of the flood dragon scissors into his body. Roar! Just as he swallowed half of it, a dragon roar came from Xiao Qin's body. An azure dragon image appeared between his bones, swimming up and down his body. One dragon force. Unexpectedly, he gained an additional dragon force. Xiao Chun was greatly startled. What is going on? Even if the materials of this immortal scissors were incredible back then, it was still impossible for him to use it. Even if the materials used to make the immortal scissors were incredible, Xiao Chun estimated that even if he swallowed all of it, he would only gain half a dragon force at most. After all, back then, Xiao Chun had swallowed more than 500 tons of divine materials before he barely gained one dragon force. Now, the immortal scissors in his hand already gained one dragon force when he swallowed half of it. If he swallowed all of it, wouldn't he gain 2 dragon force? This was too strange. Xiao Chun did not understand. He could not figure out what was going on. However, the increase in his vital qi was real. There was no exaggeration at all. It was not just a mirage. With a thought, Xiao Chun could easily feel the vital qi bursting out of his body. That was a bona fide 2 dragon force. When Xiao Chun swallowed the remaining half of the flood dragon scissors, his vital qi gained another dragon force, reaching 3 dragon force. Could it be because of the flood dragon spirit? Xiao Chun thought of an answer. It was very likely that the blue dragon body, nourishing art, increased dragon energy. This immortal scissors contained the ferocious spirit of a flood dragon from the Immortal epic. By swallowing it, Xiao Chun could quickly increase his dragon energy. This opened a shortcut for Xiao Chun. In the future, if he swallowed secret treasures containing dragon spirits, the goal of 10 dragon force would no longer be as distant as it was in the beginning. Good. Indeed, riches are found amidst danger. This half of the flood dragon scissors is not much. However, it has opened a path for me, a shortcut to cultivating the blue dragon body nourishing art. Xiao Chun revealed an expression of wild joy. He glanced at the ghost race great grandmaster level martial sage, who was still engulfed by the many spirits. Xiao Chun said his thanks softly and unfurled the freedom wings, quickly flying forward. Qing Chung carried his cycle banner with her, so she could sense it. She was not afraid of getting lost in this 9 layers of purgatory with the 4. After 1 hour, the ghost race great grandmaster level martial sage charged out of the encirclement in a sorry state. Black light filled the air. In just 1 hour, this person felt like a year and a half had passed. His face was filled with intense fatigue. Wave after wave of thousands of spirits were destroyed by this person's fists. If this person were at his peak, he would be able to charge out of the encirclement with a shout. However, after fighting with the flood dragon spirit for a long time, his body was no longer at its peak. He had even gone overboard a few times, causing significant damage to his body. The ghost race great grandmaster level martial sage showed a sullen expression as he looked around. Most of the 100-odd people he brought were already dead, including a few of his prized disciples. A white-robed man? Since when did the Kunlun realm have such a decisive and sharp junior? How come I did not know about it? This person's expression turned terrifyingly sullen. Xiao Chen's face appeared in his mind again. He clenched his fist so hard that crackling sounds could be heard. He said angrily, "No matter how great your background is, there is no way for you to survive after offending me. Emolien in this 9 layers of purgatory. Just at this moment, sonic booms resounded. Emolien felt several strong auras flying in his direction. One of them was no weaker than his at his peak. Emolien looked up and narrowed his eyes. He muttered, "So, it is the Medicine God Valley's people." This was not the first time the Medicine God Valley had come to the 9 layers of purgatory to obtain inattributed flames. Emolien did not find this strange. He had not recovered yet and did not wish to meet this group of people. "Ha! Old Emo, please stop. Unexpectedly, we meet again here." When the Medicine God Valley's Mr. Wei saw Emolien, he showed a joyful expression and quickly called out, "Hey, how come Old Emo is injured in the first layer of purgatory?" Mr. Wei asked doubtfully when he saw Emolien's injuries. Initially, Emolien did not want to bother with Mr. Wei. However, he suddenly remembered that Mr. Wei was a Grandmaster-level alchemist. He should have some sage great essence cultivating pills on him that could help him recover his vital chi and injuries quickly. If Emolien was lucky, he might be able to catch up to that white-clad brat. "I was ambushed by a white-clad youth." "Mr. Wei, you came at the right time. How many sage great essence cultivating pills do you have? I'll buy them all." What kind of youth could even ambush the ghost race's Emolien? A white-clad youth? Suddenly, a thought occurred to Mr. Wei. He took out a painting and asked, "Brother Emo, is this the white-clad youth you mentioned?" When Emolien unfurled the painting, a boundless murderous intent immediately surged in his eyes. He asked coldly, "What is your relationship with this person? Why do you carry his painting on you?" Mr. Wei put away the painting and said, "Brother Emo, please do not misunderstand. Our Medicine God Valley has no relationship with this white-clad Shao Chun." The second layer of purgatory was called the Mirror of Sin Hell. It punished those who killed their relatives when they were alive, those who killed their parents or brothers. There was a mirror in there called the Mirror of Sin. With just a gentle shine, it could show the scene of one killing their relatives. It would place one in an illusion, repeating the scene over and over again. However, the pain of the person you injured would be multiplied by 1,000-fold. When you stab someone, you would have to endure the pain of 100 stabs. What was even more painful was the heartache. The despair of your relatives would be magnified 100-fold, forcing you to endure it yourself. You would have to endure both physical and mental pain. The cycle brought boundless torture, even more horrifying than the first layer of the Mirror of Sin Hell. However, that was a legend from the Immortal epic. The current Mirror of Sin Hell was a mirror-like glacier. Rumor had it that it was formed by the Mirror of Sin. There were many mutated spirits in the glacier that merged with ice. They had already surpassed the category of spirits and were known as ice phantoms. After killing ice phantoms, one could obtain ice soul pearls. These pearls were of great help to cultivators who cultivated ice-attributed states. Hence, this layer of purgatory was much more popular than the Mute Desert. Occasionally, one could see cultivators fighting with ice phantoms. As Shao Chun flew in the air, he casually killed a few ice phantoms that were not very strong. After that, he could no longer endure their harassment. After that, he could no longer endure the might of his immortal will of thunder and unleash the might of his immortal will of thunder. Phantoms feared lightning-attributed energy the most in the first place. Furthermore, Shao Chen's small perfection saber soul was hidden within. With these two factors stacked together, the Ice Phantom's instinctive fear deterred them from offending Shao Chun. Relying on his connection to the cycle banner, Shao Chun quickly flew towards Bai and the others. Bai's group did not slow down. They probably knew that Shao Chun had the freedom wings and would catch up to them sooner or later. Suddenly, Shao Chun, who was flying quickly, paused in the air. 5 kilometers ahead, there was a man and a woman fighting an intense battle with 4 or 5 ice phantoms. Each ice phantom was at least 100 meters tall. The tallest was close to 200 meters tall. Their huge bodies were like small hills. Ice phantoms could increase their strength by swallowing their own kind. Normally, the larger they were, the stronger they were. Once they were over 100 meters tall, they were basically as strong as martial sages. A 200-meter-tall ice phantom was already as strong as a medial-grade martial sage. The man and woman had a hard time dealing with them. The woman was only an inferior-grade martial sage. The man was slightly stronger, already a peak inferior-grade martial sage. This man used good saber techniques and a strong saber intent. Even from a kilometer away, Xiao Chun could feel the sharpness of this man. This was a peak great perfection saber intent. Naturally, what made Xiao Chun stop was not this man's saber intent, but his saber technique, the four-season saber technique. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter, four mysterious phenomena flashed around this man. This person was the lower realms by clans Bai Qi. Bai Qi seemed to have made some improvements to this four-season saber technique. Although it was not as good as Xiao Chen's, it was still very incredible. Chapter 9, 71. Bai Qi fought the 200-meter-tall ice phantasm alone. Occasionally, he would make a move to help the other girl. Xiao Chun had not expected to meet the other party in the 9 layers of purgatory. After observing the girl's situation, he discovered that she cultivated the ice-attributed state. He reckoned that Bai Qi had risked his life for this woman. "Senior brother, don't bother about me. Go on by yourself." The girl revealed a sorrowful expression on her delicate face. When the two entered this sin-mirroring hell, they had been very careful not to offend overly strong existences. However, they had not expected a 200-meter-tall ice phantom to emerge from the ground, resulting in the current situation. Dang! Bai Qi executed cycle of seasons and seasons, knocking back the 200-meter-tall ice phantasm again. He said sullenly, "Don't speak nonsense. Later, I'll find an opportunity to delay these ice phantasm. You take the opportunity to leave. I'll follow soon after." However, based on Bai Qi's current state, he was already overwhelmed. If he managed to delay all 4 ice phantasms, how could he survive? Bang! Just at this moment, a figure descended from the sky. With a punch, he blasted the small mountain-sized ice phantasm into countless ice shards flying everywhere. The 3 dragon images formed by the wind in the sky slowly vanished, turning into strong winds that blew away. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and stretched out his hand amid the ice shards filling the sky. A fist-sized black ice pearl appeared in his hand. Within the ice pearl, one could faintly see a wisp of a vengeful spirit wailing at the top of its lungs. This was the Ice Soul Seed. When the largest ice phantasm died, the other ice phantasms let out strange cries and fled frantically. The pressure on Bai Qi decreased, and they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. However, their expressions remained grave. The strength of the person in front far surpassed the 2 of them. If he wanted to, he could casually kill the 2 of them. There are not many kind people who came to the 9 layers of purgatory. The situation might not be any better than before. "Brother Bai, it has been a long time since we parted at Hunluo City." Xiao Chun turned around and handed the Ice Soul Seed to Bai Qi. Bai Qi was stunned for a while before smiling in pleasant surprise. "Unexpectedly, I met Brother Xiao here. This is my junior sister, Nieran." "Junior sister, this is Xiao Chun, who came with me from the Sky Dome realm, the white-robed Xiao Chun who will be conferred king in half a year." Nieran's eyes lit up. Clearly, she had heard of Xiao Chen's name before. However, she had not expected him to know the senior brother that she admired. Nieran's eyes lit up. She had clearly heard of Qi's name before, but she had not expected him to know the senior brother she admired. Xiao! He wanted to obtain the Ice Soul Orb to help him pass the trials and increase his chances of success. So he came to 9 Hells Purgatory to try his luck. Many thanks to Xiao Chun for making a move this time. If not for you arriving at the right time, junior sister and I would not have survived. This matter was not worth mentioning. When an old friend was in trouble, how could he ignore it? Furthermore, it was just a casual strike. To Xiao Chun, this was nothing. Where is Xianyuan Jiantian? If I remember correctly, he seems to be in the same sect as you. Why didn't you come with him? Xiao Chun thought of another old friend and asked. Bai Qi smiled helplessly and said, "His talent and potential are better than mine. The sect can no longer hide him. He left the sect 3 years ago, and I haven't heard from him for a long time. Xianyuan Zhantian cultivated the state of kingship. With his accumulations, if he could really rise up, his strength could not be underestimated. After much difficulty, Xiao Chun finally met with an ancient person from the Sky Dome realm. Just as he was about to chat with him, his expression suddenly changed. Earlier, in that instant, Xiao Chun felt an intense fluctuation from the cycle banner. Qing Cheng must have encountered a difficult battle, so she took out the cycle banner to face her enemy. Given the strength of Bai, Yuan Su, and the others, unless they met a strong opponent, Qing Cheng would not use the cycle banner. "Sorry, my friend ran into some trouble. I have to rush back," Bai Qi said. "After obtaining the Ice Soul Pearl, Junior sister and I will be returning as well." Before leaving, Xiao Chun thought of something and handed Bai Qi a dragon pearl. This was the essence of the old ice dragon beside the Tianwu Emperor's grave for tens of thousands of years. This dragon pearl can save your life when necessary. Take care. I'll take my leave first. Xiao Chen's four-season saber technique had been imparted to him by a senior of the Bai clan. Without that senior's teachings, he would not have created his flawless 4 seasons. Now that they met, this dragon pearl could be considered repaying the other party's kindness. "Senior brother, so it turns out that you and the white-robed Xiao Chun are acquainted. Why haven't you mentioned it before?" Nie Ran fiddled with the ice soul root in her hand, appearing extremely excited. Seeing the ice shards falling from the air, Bai Qi did not reply to his beloved junior sister. Instead, he smiled in disappointment and frustration. With one casual punch, Xiao Chun instantly killed the ice soul that Bai Qi did not have confidence in even if he used his full power. Compared to when they met in Hunluo City back then, Xiao Chun's strength had already reached a level that Bai Qi could no longer fathom. Back then, during the Five Nations contest in Dragon Sealing City, Bai Qi and Xiao Chun had been outstanding talents of the Sky Dome realm. Now, the difference between them was like clouds and mud. Bai Qi thought about Xianyuan Zhantian's bold words when they parted, saying that he would catch up to Xiao Chun within 10 years. Suddenly, he felt that this was a distant goal. There was a kind of person who, once surpassed, would only grow farther and farther away. In the end, one would not even be able to see their backs. As for Xiao Chun, he was such a person. Given the strength of Qing Cheng and the others, they would not use the cycle banner unless they met a strong enemy. Xiao Chun felt suspicious. Could he have met a great Grandmaster-level martial sage? Since when did great Grandmaster-level martial sages become so common? In the 9 ranks of the great families, there were only 2 great Grandmaster-level martial sages. How could there be great Grandmaster-level martial sages in the 9 layers of purgatory? Furthermore, of all the great Grandmaster-level martial sages, Xiao Chun ended up in conflict with Bai and the others. With a thought, he directly summoned out the 8 Ghost Palanquin. If he could not use so close yet world apart, he would not be able to use it. If he could not use so close yet worlds apart, the speed of this 8 Ghost Palanquin would be even faster than the Freedom Wings. The only problem was that it exhausted more secret treasures. If not for his magic energy, he would not dare to use this 8 Ghost Palanquin at full power. The 8 Ghost Palanquin moved as fast as lightning in the sky of the Sin mirroring hell, moving like a flash of light. It was so fast that it felt like a gentle breeze. At the intersection of the 2nd layer of the Sin mirroring hell and the 3rd layer of the Sin mirroring hell, Qing Cheng fought an intense battle with a ghost race man wearing black battle armor. That black-clad ghost race man did not look very old. However, he was a Grandmaster-level martial sage. 8 different sabers were stabbed into the back of this black-clad battle armor man. His aura was startling. As they fought, Qing Cheng found it extremely taxing to hold on. As for Bai and the other 2, they were each occupied by a 500-meter-tall ice phantasm. They could not help at all. Whoosh! The black-clad man stretched out his hand and took out a black saber from his back. This saber had a strange shape. It was about 1 meter long, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. The tip of the saber was flat. When the black-clad man swung the saber, a black saber, Qi knocked away the boundless starlight pouring over from the cycle banner. The advantage of his cultivation allowed the black-clad man to knock Qing Cheng back 100 meters. She could not stand stably, and the qi and blood in her body surged. The black-clad man said expressionlessly in a cold voice, "It looks like your 8 ghost palanquin is indeed not in your hands. In that case, you can go and die today." Qing Cheng put away the banner and sighed in her heart at her bad luck. She said softly, "Xie Zixuan, I advise you to leave immediately. Otherwise, you will not be able to leave even if you want to." Xie Zixuan smiled and said, "What's wrong? You still have reinforcements? Good. I'll come and see which great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the Ghost Empress's faction will rush over to save you." Coincidentally, I just advanced to Grandmaster-level martial sage. Let's see if I can use a great Grandmaster-level martial sage as a sacrifice. The black-clad man's figure flashed, and he charged over to Qing Cheng again, hacking down with a saber. A ferocious evil spirit appeared on the saber, adding a boundless might to this saber strike. Qing Cheng sighed and shook the cycle banner in her hand. The banner unfurled, and 7 stars leaped out one after another, forming a big dipper formation. Starlight filled the sky, intertwining with the tricolored light of massacre, death, and ruin. The viscous starlight slowed Xie Zixuan's movements. Qing Cheng found an opportunity to dodge this saber strike. Then, she summoned out the black and white soul reapers and surrounded the black-clad man. Qing Cheng's hands did not stop moving as she quickly formed hand seals. Many strong spirits appeared in the air, surrounding Xie Zixuan. Your Ghost Empress's faction is the best at refining spirits. However, you do not know that these mere worldly possessions are not worth mentioning before a true expert. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The other 7 sabers on the black-clad man's back all flew out. He took a step forward, and his figure split into 8, each holding a saber. Each saber had a different ferocious evil spirit attached to it. Each of them used a different saber technique, but they were connected to each other, vaguely appearing in the world. It was like a new world was born. Ghosts and gods descended. Black chi surged, and a faint divine might spread out. Ghosts howled, and black light shone everywhere, looking incredibly terrifying. Qing Cheng's expression changed slightly. "You actually succeeded in practicing the Avicii saber technique. Haha, now you know fear, right? After Master, I am the second person of the ghost race to successfully practice the Avicii saber technique. The master of the ghost domain will definitely be me. This is just an incomplete version of the Avicii Hell. When I summon out the complete version of the Avicii Hell, I will dare to compete with the blue-robed emperor." The black saber chi shattered the many spirits. Soon, only the black and white soul reapers remained of the large number of spirits, holding on bitterly. Qing Cheng could not help feeling bitter. Xie Zixuan truly lived up to being the top disciple of the Dongyue Ghost Emperor. She wondered why she was so unlucky to run into a Grandmaster-level martial sage in the sin-mirroring hell. If Qing Cheng had the 8 ghost palanquin, she would be able to move even faster than Xiao Chun. That would be more than enough for her to protect herself. Perhaps, if she had another month, she could use the cycle banner to raise her cultivation to a higher level and summon out the clones of the 10 Yama Kings. The 8 clones merged into one, and the black and white soul reapers were chopped into 100 pieces. Then, Xie Zixuan appeared before Qing Cheng once again, wearing the black battle armor and sheathed the 8 ghostly sabers on his back. Qing Cheng waited solemnly as she hovered the cycle banner above her head. The starlight of massacre, death, and ruin mixed with starlight, encasing her and forming a barrier of starlight. Xie Zixuan frowned slightly. He did not know what kind of secret treasure this astral banner was. Unexpectedly, it managed to neutralize his attacks multiple times. If not for Xiao Qin's breakthrough in cultivation, he would not have been able to deal with Qing Cheng, who held the astral banner.